Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Shade. It's Brittany King, your host and your girl, and welcome to another panel discussion this evening. And yes, we will be discussing the Will and Chris controversy tonight. But as we're covering this Oscar incident, we're going to explore really us as a society, us as human beings, and we're not only going to be talking about the controversy, but we're going to be talking about how we look at forgiveness, how we look at compassion, accountability, and our ever evolving opinions of comedy. I completely flubbed that. All right, I don't have a script. I'm doing this off the cuff. Forgive me. But anyway, and we're also going to be talking about something that was brought to my attention of how we view celebrities, how we praise them, and how there seems to be this disconnection between celebrity and humans, and how sometimes we don't really see them as human beings. So before we get into this, I want to bring up our panel. We have 6 people, and we have Jessarae, we have Richard, we have Jaimi, we have Freddie, and because the last name, yes, he's my brother. And we have Eric. So if everyone can go around and kind of just tell us who you are and what you do really quick, and then we're going to get into this. Richard, let's start with you.
Okay, you start with me. Yeah, my name is Richard Caines. I'm an actor, writer, producer, comedian. Pretty much anything they let me do in the arts, I'll do. And Eric and I actually went to school together and done a number of projects together with he and Rhoda. And I'm really excited to be here. I really appreciate you allowing me to come on, Brittany. This is a really strong topic, and all those things I'm really interested to talk about. So thank you.
Thank you. Jaimi?
Hey, what's going on? I'm Jaimi Alexander. I'm an on-camera host. I have a podcast and YouTube show called King Speak, and I also produce the after discussion on YouTube for Ready to Love, which is on OWN TV. And just an overall lover of life, out here having a good time, and happy to be a part of this conversation as well. I'm excited that, yes, it's a slap, but we're going to go a little deeper today, so I'm excited.
Hi, my name is Eric Shapiro. I'm here in Silicon Valley, Northern California. My wife, Rhoda, who Rich mentioned, the three of us have been a group for a while since college. She and I own a newspaper here called the Milpitas Beat, and along with a production company called Chi Media Company that does movies, books, commercials, all kinds of things.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Jessarae Emberton. I am a mother. I am currently building a farm on my land here in Brown County, Indiana, as well as a hopefully a community organizer. I'm working on a lot of projects that haven't quite manifested, so look out for good things.
Awesome.
And I am Freddie King. I am a school psychologist out here in the DMV area or DC area. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this opportunity to get all of you guys' perspectives. And yes, I am Brittany's brother.
And my little brother at that. So by 1 year.
Ain't that Brittany's brother?
Okay, so first, what I want to do is I want to play the infamous video, and it's just to get it fresh in our minds. And I'm sure we've seen it 1,000 times, so I'm going to play it really quickly. And then what I'm going to do is actually read some takes that I saw on Twitter from people's point of views about what happened, and they're all pretty polarizing. So we'll do that. Let's see. No. All right. So I'm going to play this.
He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me. your fucking mouth. Wow, dude. Yeah. It was a G.I. Jane joke. Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay. Okay.
Okay. One, I didn't realize that I had the unedited version.
I was like, go off.
Well,
Yeah. Now we know we can curse.
we're choosing chaos.
Right,
Okay,
now.
not Will Smith. We're choosing one. No, okay, so what do you guys, okay, my first question is just, what did you think of this when you first saw it? I'll say for me, I wasn't watching the Oscars. I was just told to look at this because the person that asked me to look at this was like, I can't tell if this is fake or not. Like, tell me if this is fake. And when I saw it, initially I did think it was scripted and a joke, but then when I saw that version, I think Ken had the original version. That's when I was like, this is not a joke, because obviously when he was yelling back at Chris, I could tell like he was serious. So my initial thought was, I can't believe Will did this. But then afterwards, I felt like this was bigger than Chris Rock. I felt like Will Smith was not only smacking Chris, but I felt like he was smacking the internet, like smacking all the naysayers that's been talking about his marriage, been talking about him. So that's pretty much what I first felt within the first couple of days of this incident. So anyone can start next.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It made me very uncomfortable. Even to watch it now, it's like, I don't like seeing violence and fights. I've seen some fights in my day, and it's really bad. I don't like the way it seems. So I was stunned by it. And to be honest, I feel like Will went overboard, because I think about it like this. If that was my mother or my sister or one of my friends up there, like, I do not play about minds. So now me and Will, we gonna have a problem. And, I did read a headline that Chris Rock said he didn't know about Jada's alopecia, which I kind of believe, because even at that, he was like, it's a G.I. Jane joke. Like, what are we talking about here? And I feel like I agree with you, Brittany. There may be some pent up and bottled up things that Will is going through. But sweetie, celebrity or not, we're all going through things. And guess what I can't do? Go slap a hoe for it. Yeah. So I'm going to need him to be who he's supposed to be. It was a very, I can't give him sympathy for what he's going through. We're humans. We're all going through things. Because what I feel like this is going to allow is for the next person who's going through something to pop somebody because they said something. And it's like, well, this is what we can do now. Additionally, Chris Rock is a comedian. I love comedy. Have y'all ever been in the front row of a comedy show? You're going to be called fat. You too ugly for your girlfriend, your outfit. Like, this is what happens. Like, this is not brand new. So I don't know when we got so soft or something like that. Like, to me, he could have pulled him to the side and they could have had a discussion about it. They are grown. They are all over 40. And to do that, I feel bad for Chris Rock. He was emasculated on national television. He held it well. I kind of wish he would have ducked back and ran a little bit, made a joke and let something, like, you're not going to play me like that on national television, but he did. And he went along with the show, and I love that. But I hate the way it played out. And I don't know if you guys saw, this is the last thing I'll say, but I don't know if you saw, I saw the angle in the back where Jada was. I mean, she didn't lean over. She didn't kiss Will. She didn't say, calm down. There was when he said, oh, Will just slapped the mess out of me, you see her go like this, like a little laugh. And that was it. No, Will, are you good? No head shake. No, it's just, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Okay, I'm done.
Real quick. When I saw that, I wasn't like, oh, he's justified. Will, no. I was like, what the hell? Like, I felt horrible for Chris, and I thought Will was out of line. And I thought Will was going to be escorted out, like straight up. I was like, well, he's gone. Right. And I didn't see that video of Jada. Because I was wondering what was she doing? Because I didn't see her lean over either. But anyway, go ahead.
If I want to say is, in the space of being a comedian, being an MC of live shows and doing those things, like like you had said, don't sit in the front row, don't do it. And the worst thing is like, and I say it's like when you have a heckler and you do things, and you know, it's not okay to hit over words at any point, right? And that's just not acceptable. And I think one of the things that got me is that our society has been moving too far to being desensitized to violence. So it's not acceptable. And like, as a comedian, there were jokes, my first show, I went up and I had a set of jokes, and I was like, all right, I'm a little nervous because I don't want people to get mad at me. But I never in my mind did I think somebody would assault me, right? But I didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. But I never thought about being assaulted, right? And then, so I've done shows and I've had people come up after me and be like, that was kind of messed up. And it's like, hey, it's a joke. I don't know, I never meant anything by it, whatever. But that was it. That's as far as it's gone, right? And, it's like, as a stage actor, theater, right? If someone doesn't like the show or they get fed up with my character, are they allowed to break that wall and come up and do that? No. And there's so many levels to what we're talking about, right? So, and I'm sorry, I just want to say a couple of things. It's as an artist, right? As a person of color, as a Black man on these things, these levels that happen, that to see that happen between two Black men is tough. And to see that nothing happened, and it's like, it's okay for assault, but assault on another Black man. You brought up the point that Jada didn't stop him. She didn't do anything. Look, one thing that's known, and I would ask you women of color on this, is that, I've talked to several women of color, and they're like, it really bothered us because we know what the consequences are if we get out of pocket from it as a male. They know what's going to happen, right? So what would happen? Oh my gosh, hey, calm down, let it go, because I'm not looking for you to get arrested, right? Because that's what'll happen. But none of that happened. And so there's so much more, but I just want to say that's what stood out to me. It was horrifying, it was sickening, and it's traumatizing. You have to remember, it's traumatizing. It still hit me the same way to watch it right now.
Yeah, I found it particularly upsetting watching it with you guys. That opened another dimension of it, and I've seen it a bunch of times. I don't think it ever hasn't hit me. I've probably seen it 15 or 20 times. And it's the indignity. It's, in terms of words versus action, it's just the indignity of being reduced to flesh. I mean, that's why violence is so horrific. You are made flesh, and there's a lot of ways to reduce people, and that's the most primitive one. And it was really upsetting. I actually had to take a moment after I just saw it, and he brought him low. I mean, and it was pathetic. And as far as comedy goes, I'm really looking forward with all you guys to auditing that. Like, that's not taboo for me to go. I'm not a free speech. It doesn't have to be free speech absolutism. And I hope the conversation goes to that. But the only comment I want to make at the beginning here is something that's completely gotten lost, whether it's Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle, is the idea of the comedian has a persona. A comedian is not up there enacting a documentary, and the jokes are not nonfiction. It's a ritual that's ancient, and it's jesting, and there are archetypes of clowns throughout all cultures in human history. So are we in a space now where clowns are taboo? And if that's the space, how close are we to real disrepair?
Great point with that.
Yeah, I was watching it live. I don't know if you guys were watching the Oscars live or not, but I was just, first we were all just kind of like, wait, what just happened? Oh, this is part of like this is a joke. And then obviously when Will was going off, we were like, oh, this is something more. And clearly, like Brittany was saying, I was like, the behavior does not match the event. Like, this is so extreme for a G.I. Jane joke, even if it is something that has some background to it, right? But it was just something that I was just like super disappointed in, because we all know Will, like we all grew up with him and really were rooting for him, and this is his moment. And then just right then, like it just kind of went down the drain, and that whole moment and the energy just shifted to just disappointment and not knowing what's going to happen after that. But you know, it's, I don't know. And the more I watch it, the more triggering it is for some reason. I don't know why. I thought the first time I was kind of like in shock, and now I'm just like, I'd rather not ever see that video again. Like I'll be fine if I don't watch that again.
Sorry.
I mean,
Agreed.
I get it for the sake of the show. I get it. But I'm just kind of like, I've been really trying to avoid it the more and more I watch it, because it's just so disappointing, because he represented, I'm not going to say he represented Black people, because that's not necessarily like true. I know society is true, but for me, it's not. I feel like he represented, you know, the Williams family. He was representing Will Packer, who was producing the show. He was representing, you know, his King Richard's family and like his own family. And I'm just like disappointed and kind of sad for all of those involved, and him especially, because that was his moment. Like, but yeah, I echo all the things that you guys said.
Jess?
I don't feel like I have anything huge to contribute, because I feel like I've been stuck the entire time in the fact that like there are so many infinite ways to look at this situation that like it seems like all you're getting in the responses are a direct view of where a person stands like in their own lives and like in society. And then it ends up that people are actually warring over what they believe. It's like it's become this talking point that's really about something greater. But I don't know if any of us have the skill to really hold those conversations, especially in the spaces that they're being held, like Facebook. I am seeing like a whole lack of nuance, which I think is like the point of this. But it's like, I don't know. It's overwhelming to me. It's very overwhelming.
I want to say,
I agree.
I do interviews all the time, whether I'm hosting or guesting, and I was scared out of my mind to come talk about this. So throughout the day, I was like, oh no. And then when I saw the video, ever since I saw it, I'm sitting here, I'm pretty emotional. So it is, we're in something of an unknown.
And that's,
well,
that's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation, because it's so much bigger than the controversy. I wasn't going to do this. I did my own quick live, I think a couple of days afterwards, like to get my thoughts out. I wasn't going to do a panel, but as I've seen it evolve, I'm like, this is way bigger than Will and Eric. Like this is how even like Freddie was saying, like it was a little triggering, and Eric, you're getting emotional. Jessarae's like, I'm unsure how to even discuss this. And then, you know, Richard and Jaimi chimed in sentiments, as of but this is why I want to talk, because I feel like this is bigger, but I don't know exactly what it actually is. And I'm like,
I mean, we're doing an experiment, so
yeah,
it's valuable. Yeah.
Well, I wanted
think,
to.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead. Well, just really quick, I wanted to speak to two things. Actually, something Richard you said, and something Eric that you said. As a Black woman, I would have been very disappointed in my man. Black woman, I don't know what, but I'm just saying that. Don't do that. Don't do us like that. That was completely. I would have been so embarrassed of my man. Like, what are we doing here? So that's the first one. I would have been very embarrassed. He would have got the riot act from me when we got home, because this is not what we do. Number one. Right. Number two, Eric, I'm with you. And what I got a sense of with this thing is this continued censorship. I remember reading and watching something back in the day about Black comedy was to let the community know what was going on. Because we got our own language, our own lingo, our own vibe. And when we say stuff and when we move, because there was even like, okay, maybe security didn't know to come to the stage, because what if he was just going to dap him up? Or we have our own ways of doing things, right? So when it comes back to the comedy, I feel like this is a censorship situation, because comedy is not censored. It used to be a modality where we used to get information about what was going on to each other. And now, I mean, Richard, I'm sure you feel it as a comedian. Like, what kind of piece is a comedian going to have cracking on? And it's hilarious. Who cares? Like, what? It's just very confusing. So I think it's a censorship issue as well.
I want to say a couple of things because you touched on some things, and we've all said it in different ways. And one of the things is, it's like it's hard because it's put us all in the corner, right, on various different ways, right? Because what it's like, what do you say that doesn't light the dynamite? And so it's kind of crazy. So one thing, one comment I want to call it, you know, is a phrase I always thought about my mother, who I had a brother who passed away. He had cancer. He died at 7. The reason I bring that up is he would have an outburst, and my mother said to him, "You have every right to be angry, but you do not have a right to behave this way."
Yeah.
What that taught me is, at that time I was 10, a 7-year-old boy dying of cancer is not allowed to have an outburst and be abusive. And if that's not allowed, then there's really not else that comes close to that that makes me think it's okay to be abusive and outburst. So that's the first thing I'm saying. So that's what I learned, and I know that that was a tough thing to observe, and it's a tough thing to take in, right? So that's one thing you're saying. And then it's like going to the everybody's in the corner. You know, it's like they had the thing of LAPD asking, you know, do you want him removed? And there's discussion about that, right? But there's 2 levels. This way, there's so many levels to it, right? People say the police shouldn't have asked them, just to remove them. Well, if they did that, then it's like, oh, they didn't know how that would explode, right? Because some people might say, oh my God, they're arresting this black man on television. So really, what do you do, right? So that pushes that corner. Then it's Chris Rock. If he said yes, arrest him. There's no brother, I can tell you right now, no black man that wants to be responsible for putting another black man in handcuffs and into the system. It's just something that's within the community you don't do, right? It's something that it's a last resort on your mind, right? Even, and as a black woman, it's like the last one on your mind to call the police on a black man, right? It's just, we know what it is. It's a thing that's within us. So there was that for Chris Rock, right? So he's in the corner now. And then, you know, you have people in the corner of like, well, you know, he's got to be tough, or he's got to be this. And so we're seeing all those dynamics, and it's like, you don't know what to say. Like you say, we're in this place where we're horrified, right? Right? We don't know what to say. We don't know how to say it. And there are people I want to address that, like Tiffany Haddish went out there, and it's the, you know, she said, oh, well, you know, I thought it was a beautiful thing. He's defending his woman. And it's like, I instantly lost any type of level of respect, but I also was afraid, because if that's a mother talking to their child, if that's a woman talking to her man, what type of weight is that toxic masculinity is that man going to develop? So, sorry.
I was gonna say, I was gonna play that video if you want me to play it real quick, so everyone knows the of that. Yeah. But someone can go ahead while I get that video up.
Okay, side note, guys, if we mute while the other person's talking, it won't click as much. Side note. Or have headphones. Yeah. But yeah, no, Richard, you're right. Because, you know, even though I said now I can see if a dude grabbed my arm up or was about to physically assault me, absolutely. Like, my man better get on it. That's a completely different thing. But some words, like, yeah. So I agree.
Yeah, I was also oh no, that was. But you know, as a school psychologist, I work in an elementary school, and I was just thinking, like, dang, like, what is the message being communicated to our kids, with everyone condoning, a lot of people in the Black community for sure, condoning what Will did, and they're saying, oh yeah, he was protecting Black women, oh yeah, he was protecting his wife. I was kind of like, but we all know that's not something that we can just go around doing, just hitting people if they say something that's messed up. I get it was messed up. Like, I totally understand it. Richard, we've said, you know, your first point when you were saying it's okay that you're upset, but it's not okay to act this way. I tell my students that all the time. I definitely validate that they are angry and acknowledge that it's okay that you're angry. It's okay that you're upset, but you cannot go around punching kids in the face. You can't, you know, like, you can't do stuff like that. Like, society doesn't function like that. And I was more taken back. Honestly, I feel like the only reason, like, a big reason why we're having a discussion right now is just the response to it and how polarizing it actually is. because I know Twitter was lit up and people were like you're on Chris's side or Will's side. Now choose. Like there is no in between. And it's just so insane that people really are out here saying, "Oh, I would have done the same thing," or "Oh yeah, Will had every right to do what he did." It's like, are we really? Is that where we are right now? Like, I was surprised by that.
Likewise, yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't know I was in touch with so many tough guys. Like, yeah, like that are ready to erupt. Like, it really took me by surprise. I was like, oh, really? You're 100% sure, and not that it's respectable anyway, but yeah. It's tough, you know. In the social media age, every single person has a microphone, so it's almost like every single topic becomes divisive, and it like never ceases to be shocking. But they did a poll, and I guess it's 50-50 in terms of the Rock Smith blame placement, and that blows my mind. Again, it's like, you know, it's not that I'm some opponent of ambiguity or paradox or nuance, but I do think when you're crafting a moral view of the world, there has to be lines. Like, and I thinking of this, like in my own response to it, I'm not even sure I have that many, but I think hitting is absolutely one of them.
100%. I have the video ready if you guys want to see it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. Bear with us. Technical difficulties. Hold on. Okay. Can you guys hear it?
No.
Oh, you can't? Oh, probably because
I
it's
can't,
in my
can't hear
headphone.
anything yet.
Okay, hold on.
Would you define tonight as uncomfortable?
Can you hear that? Just
Yeah.
clicking.
I would define tonight as a success.
Okay.
It was a great night tonight.
Okay. What did you?
First of all, I seen a man stand up for his wife, which we don't see that much anymore. That made me happy. How about you?
I
How
wanted.
did you feel about it?
I wanted your opinion on it because you're a comedian, and so it was that thing where, like, was that too far? How did you feel about what Will did? Because you are someone who's, and yet, like you just said, you saw a man defending his wife.
Yeah. I want to know how you felt. You want your husband to do that for you if you was clearly hurt? You put her face up on the screen. He looked over at his wife. She was hurt. What would you want?
I would want him to defend me. The thing that made me sad was like this was a big night for Will, and then you saw that emotion for him, and it was like, God, it's just I can't. I don't think I've still processed how this went. You know.
Well, I just know she better take care of business when they get home. Because I know
Okay,
I
we get the
would.
gist. I will say, let me do this. This is very confusing to them. Okay, so I don't know if you want to speak to that because you brought up the video, but
I don't know. I hate the narrative of it because I'm going to tell you, any Black man listening, you know how I'll feel protected? Marry us. We need to be married. You don't need to punch somebody for me to feel protected. I want to feel protected by your covering under covenant. So anybody out there who really thinks he's a tough guy, let's see if you can go through the long haul of commitment. That shows me you're a man of character, not punching some dude on stage on national television. Thank you.
You just got us all in trouble. You go.
yeah, I'm going to talk about just on some side of the fence. Oh yeah, I forgot to read the takes from actual people that were saying things. Let me read that real quick. People's responses to when they saw the incident and how they feel. So someone on Twitter said, "This is what protecting your woman looks like in public." Someone said, "If you want to be edgy, be prepared to get the edge of someone's hand or get out of the kitchen and don't make jokes about someone that can get you slapped. It's common sense." Someone else said, "Comedy is forever. Keep doing it. Entitled actors, they're entitled partners, vegans, they can all get it. It's fair game." Someone said, maybe we need to stop commenting on women's appearances, but violence is never the answer. Someone else chimed in where they said Chris knew better. He had an entire documentary on Black hair and understood the depth of the joke insult. No excuses. He needs to apologize to Jada and all Black women who are suffering from alcoholism. Someone said, I'm sorry, but if anyone was talking about someone I love on a national television, I'm pulling up, especially if it's over a health condition. And then someone else said something on both sides. They said both men committed assault, one verbal, one physical, both have an effect on men's psychology. I thought that was an interesting take. But in regards to Tiffany, just in regards to the narrative of, is it clicking still? A bad click.
Yeah, Eric, you have to mute and then it won't click. Sorry. I know I use StreamYard. That's the only reason I know.
StreamYard be giving me so much grief.
It's taking it. Hold on.
Good? Okay. So I feel like the narrative with people saying this is what it looks like to protect Black women. I feel like in hindsight, if people were thinking more, they wouldn't necessarily really think that hitting someone is really protecting. But I feel like some Black women feel like they haven't been really protected by people in public. Like they feel like they're usually the butt of the joke, or they usually ostracized, or they feel like they're not seen on the same level as other women, whether it's because of beauty or whether it's because of taken seriously or they're loud or they're angry. So I think when women or Black women, some Black women saw this display of protection on a scale at the Oscars in front of everyone, they felt like, wow, like this man he's risking everything for this Black woman unapologetically. But similar to Jaimi, even though for me, I still like Will Smith, and I'm going to get into all this. This is really, really why I want to talk about this. Because at the end of the day, to me, Will Smith is still a human. I think he needs to be held accountable for his actions. I think he should have been removed. I think he shouldn't have been able to give his speech. I think there should have been a lot of things that should have been done. But at the end of the day, he's still a human. And I understand if I was Will Smith, I could understand why he thought he needed to do that. But protection is not doing that, because now look at what's happened. Like, and what really bothered me during the speech is when he conflated his protection with Richard Williams and saying like Richard Williams, fought fierce for his family. I'm like, you know what? Richard Williams could have almost been justified to smack someone the way people were talking about his children when they were fighting, when they were, trying to become tennis players at Wimbledon, and in that space during times where they were being mocked, where people were making monkey sounds when they would be playing different players, where people were calling them racial epithets, calling them the hard N-word all the time. And he did not hit no one because he knew the protection he could give them and the provision was making them superstars. And now when you think of Serena and Venus, they're synonymous with tennis. That's what I think of. So that was the protection he was doing. And one could have said, he probably had critics like, you're not holding it down, man. You're letting people talk. He's like, no, I'm getting them prepared, mentally prepared. So that was, to me, that display that Will did was not protection. But I understand why Black women are saying this, but this is not protection. And I feel like this was just Will's ego. I think this was Will's ego trying to prove to the world that he's a protector, a man that can protect Jada. He's not what everyone's saying. I think this was for everyone else, really. Go ahead.
I was so I really see your point in that, and it's interesting, as you said, like all of this deserves air, because we're getting informed on so many levels about our society. There's something I've always said, that America is mentally ill as a country and dysfunctional. And why I've said that is that any other of these things that we look at, we would say someone's displaying signs of mental illness. And I'm not downing. I'm not, this is not about shaming mental health. This is not what it is. But what I'm saying is that what we're looking at and what we're saying, examples are, oh, this is great, that, this is okay, this is what love looks like, this is what protection looks like. Well, this is a skewed view, right? That's dysfunctional view. That's to think that that's what protection is. We have a problem. So I say that because, look, what if someone were in an abusive relationship and they say, so we find ways to tell them that that isn't love. We have to explain them that isn't love. You're worth more. That's not acceptable. But yet here we are justifying violence as long as we feel it's a right to it or what can go on. You know, Will Smith obviously is going through something, but this struck me where you had said he should have been removed. That's how you deal with it. That's what happens, because this is not acceptable. We don't care who you are, what you're with, what you're doing, what happens. But he got, not only did he remain, he got a standing ovation. He did these things. Like, and I'm saying, like, to me, it's like, wow, we can't say we're broken on that. But he didn't, to me, exhibit any remorse. I felt like he apologized to everyone else in his speech, which I thought was self-aggrandizing, but he apologized to everyone else except the person you assaulted. And there are many levels to that too. But the point is, he enjoyed the rest of the night, right? He went to the after party. He was dancing. He was having fun, this and this. Then comes later on an apology, which it's like, oh, now? But, you do something like that, you're embarrassed. You've lost your temper. You go home. You would have escorted yourself out and be like, I am so embarrassed. I am so sorry. I've got to go. Where's Chris Rock? I don't know what came over me, blah, blah, blah. None of that happened. So I think the ego part is what's sticking to me, is that I'm wondering what's going on, that this was okay. And then too, like, the things of him thinking, I've got to do this. We saw this coming, and there's a lot. I don't know if we want to go there with that, of what has been happening to him and his manhood and his mental for a long time. And he was, it was on display, right? When they were talking, there was on the red table, whatever discussion of, I wasn't getting what I needed from you. I wanted this, I wanted that. And then even when he said, I think it was well, what do you feel about your transgression? She said, I don't think it was a transgression. It's what I needed and this and that. So why I'm saying that, as a man, to watch that and see those things, or anybody in a relationship, it's like, wow, okay, so what is going to be good enough? So you told me I wasn't good enough. What is going to be good enough? I'm also compared to someone who, she's been comparing him for as long as they've been together, to someone who sometimes a lot of violence was the discussion, right? So Will just kind of, I think he snapped, but I'm not excusing it, and we have to deal with it. So I see.
Anyone else?
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I don't know if. So I know the conversation and what happens, with Will is like shifted a little bit towards like mental health and what he's gone through. And I think a lot of that is valid, right? I believe that he has gone through a lot, especially with all the things that has come out, with like his marriage and August, and people dragging Will, for kind of allowing Jada to, be in this entanglement, right? So I do feel that, because the way Will responded, so I didn't notice it the first time, but the second, third time when the joke was told, he was laughing the first time. Like, he was laughing initially. And I'm not saying that you can't, he could be feeling something else, laughing. You tend to laugh off pain all the time. I'm not saying he was genuinely laughing and thinking that was funny, but the initial reaction was for him to laugh. And I believe that his perspective and, what he wanted to do in that moment shifted when he probably looked over and saw Jada's face. And then I felt he probably knew he had to make a decision, and he was not going to allow another man or, people to drag him for not sticking up for Jada or stick up for his own manhood. You know, there's a lot of people that I'm sure would have, you know, had an issue with him just sitting there and not saying anything. So I feel like he probably made a decision once he saw what Jada facial expression was. And then, you know, so I do believe it's kind of more so aligned, probably like, I'm leaning towards like ego. I don't know if I'm like so convinced that, oh, he had a mental break and he just kind of lost it. I do believe he lost it, but I do believe a lot of that was played up because he was trying to prove something to people out there, that, you know, he wasn't going to take this anymore. And he's not somebody that's just going to sit by and allow people to continue to drag like him or his family, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, I think it's a few things. I think you're right. I don't think it was some mental breakdown. I think it was ego. And I mean, you know, we're coming up on the astrological new year, which is all about an ego death, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of energy. But I also remember looking at, I don't know if it was Will or Jada's page, but they said something about being here for the chaos or being, so I kind of feel like they kind of had that energy before the show also. And then another thing that I wasn't liking, I was like, I didn't know Jada had alopecia until 2 weeks ago when I was complaining about doing my hair. And my friend was like, oh, well, you know, Jada has alopecia and she really wishes that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna start wearing my natural hair more because I'm grateful I have hair. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, let me not complain about going through it because so I had no clue Jada was struggling with alopecia. I have 2 friends who have alopecia and they don't even look like her. They don't have eyebrows. They don't have a low buzz cut. They don't have any hair. So you couldn't have told me that that was the case. Number one, like, we got to give people a benefit of the doubt before reacting. I think putting hands on, so I would hate for somebody to do that to me. Genuinely, like, I'm up here doing my job and I'm clueless about your situation and that's how you react. Like, it's not going to work. And there was something else that you said. It'll come back to me. I can't think right now, but yeah, I think it was an ego situation where he's responding, but still that doesn't really cover all bases because he wasn't smacking the internet. He wasn't smacking August Alsina, you know, and I've seen a lot of people talk about how Jada was his downfall and, you know, she's this and she's that. But just like every other human, Will stays with her. It is his choice. She does not have him handcuffed to nothing every day. So whatever it is a reflection of what's already in him. That's on them. So, I mean, I don't know. They've been together this long for a reason. It's something. I don't know.
I will say, well, I do think that this is a mix of ego, but I do think it is a mix of Will. That was perhaps the straw that broke the camel's back. I did see that Instagram post about we're choosing chaos, and I don't know, was that before? That was before the incident. Okay, so I think they said that because of the two. Well, I don't know why they said that, but I know that they probably knew Chris Rock was going to be there, and Chris Rock said that thing about Jada in 2016 about when she boycotted the Oscars, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, you can't boycott something that you weren't invited to, or something like that. And then they come to, so they already have this energy, right, when they see him on stage. Or maybe I'll just say maybe she does, maybe he does. I'm just speculating. I don't know. Let's say they have this energy. I also don't think that Chris knew about the alopecia. I knew about the alopecia because I watched Red Table Talk. I know about it. I actually want to play this 40-second video I was going to play because people have said like she's lying about it, which I don't know why she'd lie. But here is like just a 40-second video of her after she shaved her head. At this point, I can only laugh. And y'all know I've been struggling with alopecia, and just all of a sudden one day, look at this line right here. Look at that. Look at that. And so it just showed up like that. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult for me to hide.
So I thought I'd just share it so y'all not asking any questions. But you know, Mama's gonna put some rhinestones in there. I was gonna make me a little crown. That's what Mama's gonna do.
So, and I agree, Jaimi. Will is choosing to stay in this. And Will's a grown man. And if he didn't want to be in this relationship, he wouldn't be. I do think, though, I don't know if you guys saw his documentary about when he was writing his book, Shape of My Life, Best Shape of My Life, I think it was called. It was like 6 videos. He talked about how he felt like he's failed every woman in his life because he never was there to protect his mom when she was being abused. He divorced his first wife, and he felt like he failed Jada in many ways because she was unsatisfied and things of that nature. Also, he talked about how laughing has been a mechanism for him since he was young when his father was beating his mother. He said that as long as he can make people laugh and make his father laugh and make everything fun, no abuse was happening, no anger was happening. So then when he saw his mother getting beat, he equated that with, I failed because I'm not making them happy. I'm not making them laugh. But whenever he did, he felt like he was saving the family. So that's why he said he really got into comedy because it was a survival mechanism when he was younger. And it was something that he used to brush things off. So to Freddie's point, maybe he was brushing things off with laughter. I really think that when he saw Chris making that joke, because if you guys hear the joke he actually said to the other couple, everyone's dropping off. Oh, Eric's here. And I'm sorry if I'm over talking, but when he made the joke to welcome back, Eric, when he made the joke, and I forgot the famous couple. Who was that famous couple he was talking to before?
Was it Javier and Penelope?
Yes, Javier and Penelope. His joke about them was contingent on Will's nomination, because they both are in the same movie. And he said, "Oh, I bet that Javier wishes Will wins because if he wins and Penelope loses, it's going to be an interesting car ride or something like that." And then Will was laughing off that, right? Because it's like, okay, he's acknowledging I'm nominated, right? Like, blah, blah. And that could have been Chris trying to make amends about, okay, y'all know what I did and it said in 2016. I'm going to just throw a little shade here, but it's all love. And then when he said, and you know what, Jada, G.I. Jane 2, love you, blah, blah, blah. I think what he really was saying was, you look great. Like G.I. Jane shaved her head. He probably just thought Jada shaved her head and that G.I. Jane looked hot and strong and whatever. And she looks gorgeous. Like Jada really looks gorgeous. And I think he was trying to compliment her, but because he didn't know the backstory, that was almost the worst thing you could say to her. So I think even Will got that part. I almost think Will got that part, but then when he saw Jada, he was reminded, like, oh yeah, no, your hair. Oh, Pete, like, all right, I got you, boo. And then goes on stage. Yeah, I do think it's ego, but I do think it's Will always being challenged on his masculinity, even his sexual orientation. If he's man enough for Jada, people always saying like Jada would pick Tupac if he was here. Like all of that accumulation, even if he's rich and he's a celebrity, and yeah, he's just like us and we go through our own stuff and we have like 1% of the money he has, yes, but he's still human. And I think that's what is interesting about the Oscars, is because it's usually seen as like a fantasy land. Like there's some space between them and us. And that when you're watching it, it's almost like you're not watching real people. At least for me, it's like I'm not really watching real people. They're in diamonds, they're in these dresses. They're like, haha, with Meryl Streep and like Denzel. Like they're all in this world that's untouchable. And it was almost like the veil was broken that night when Will smacked Chris. It was like anger, like he's violence. Like this doesn't happen there. It shouldn't happen there. They shouldn't be angry. Why should celebrities be angry like in that way? Like,
yeah, and in addition to what you're saying, there's another element that goes hand in hand with how we perceive celebrities. We've also seen these two guys perform a lot. And like, you know, I grew up in the 90s, so it's like I like grew up with them. So I'm sure I'm speaking for a few of us. So there's also, in addition to this idea that like the celebrity environment and ecosystem is unreal, we know them. We feel like we know them. It's like, and that, I think that's part of why it's so shocking. I think that's also part of why it might be more shocking. I don't want to measure shock because that becomes dicey, but it hits home in a way that a worse act, if witnessed on a video, might not hit home because we feel we actually know these two guys. And, you know, a lot of us are referring to them by their first names. You know, it's like, and it's weird. So, but what we do really know is an artificial version of both of them in character. And there's also like an element that goes hand in hand with that, which I find so fascinating. I'm finding a lot of the reactions on Twitter and elsewhere are breaking along how people feel about each of them as an artist. And not that it has to be binary. And I agree when Freddie said it doesn't have to be like, you know, Will versus Chris. But I personally was never the biggest Will Smith fan in the sense that he's, you know, a movie star. He's a blockbuster machine. I feel he makes safe bets. They're calculated. I think he's a wonderful actor. But I like never see his movies. And Chris Rock, in contrast, I think it at his peak was one of the greatest stand-ups I'd ever seen. So it's interesting. And I don't want to blur the violence at all by saying this, but I realized in the outcome that people that just didn't like Rock might be inclined to see their needle go a different way. And meanwhile, I'm over here. I've always had an issue with Will Smith in terms of his ego, which I know all you guys are mentioning. So to me, I was like completely stunned, outraged. I was like, yep, like this is like the worst nightmare version of what I always.
So you weren't shocked?
Oh, I was shocked out of my. I was shocked.
You were...
well, let's say, what is the expression? Shocked but not surprised.
Yeah. That's funny.
I love that, Eric. That's fair. Because nobody,
Oh, sorry. Years ago on Oprah, it started. I'm not damning him. I also want to say very clearly, while I'm on the topic, I don't think he needs to be canceled. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm not standing in judgment. I'm a very flawed person. It's none of that stuff. But for me, for whatever it's worth, on Oprah, I remember it was kind of like a, not cancel culture 1.0, but whatever there was before all that, or whatever you want to call it, like online mobbing or whatever. He was there and he said, if he wanted to, he could be president of the United States. And it made a wave. It made a wave through what media was at that time. And saying it right now, I mean, that's so innocuous, and he very possibly could. I mean, he's a very resourceful, powerful guy. I mean, I don't think he could anymore. But you know, it's not. It was just such an ego moment that from that moment onward, I was just like, oh, I can't believe that this safe, sanitized movie star has that huge ego. And I was kind of disappointed. I never let it go. I never hated on him. Again, he's wonderful. He's talented. But I do think the inclination, like they're very different types of artists. Like Rock at his prime was this very dangerous comic. He's more establishment now. He's hosted the Oscars a couple times. But yeah, comics are on the outer edge. And Smith is there to do big productions that cost $100 million and have to bring back like $600 million. You know, it's a very different calculation. So I think there is the presence of attitudes about each of their work, in addition to like feeling we all kind of know them.
Can I piggyback off of what you were saying for a minute? Because something that's been interesting to me is like, I do know both of their work as well. I'm sure most of us do on some level. But something that's been interesting to me is that Chris Rock as a comedian has always been like, some of his persona has been like, I don't want to use this term because I hate this term, but like being beta, like he makes it very clear, like I'm around all of these like big time people, but like he's always talking about like, oh, Rihanna doesn't even see me as like a sexual, like viable sexual like person, or like if you watch his stand-up Tambourine, like he talks about how like basically like he's around all these people that are like, you only cheated on your wife 2 or 3 times. Like, what is that? He's like talking about how he's in these spaces, but he's really not that person. And so in a way, he's always like, his career has been kind of about emasculating himself, or how people see him as not quite the like macho guy. And so part of what I saw when I saw what happened was like Will Smith was kind of punching down because he is bigger than Chris Rock, not even just in a physical sense, but in like he's the movie star. There's like old things of Chris Rock talking on Letterman about how Will Smith used to beat him out for roles and stuff. So I think there is like rivalry that goes into it that maybe we don't even realize because we're not in that industry. But also like, yeah, it just seemed like when my husband and I talked about it right after it happened, I was like, of course it was Chris Rock that got punched. Like, who else is it going to be? Like, that's Chris Rock's thing, right? And like, it's interesting because when we put these like bigger picture elements on it, like, okay, Jada's a Black woman, they're a Black couple, and like I understand where that comes from and I don't really have a right to speak on that. But also like there are other factors at play, and like they're a very privileged Black couple who like have made a lot of money, who like have been able to give their kids everything, and that's all great, but like I don't know. It's just there's more dynamics at play is what I'm trying to get at. And that was always really interesting to me because I don't hear people talking about that or like really defending Chris Rock in like any way whatsoever. And it's all about Will Smith. So I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Chris because that's what I was talking about on Twitter. I was like, who's championing Chris? Like like they never came out with nothing. Like not even someone come. Okay, yes. I think I think Richard, you're the one that brought up that they called the police and that they told Will to leave and he wouldn't leave.
They had the discussion was that the police were there. They were on site. You know, they stay on site, and so there was. I mean, there's some discussion about whether they asked Chris Rock, "Do you want us to arrest him?" And he said, "No, I'm heading out anyway. It's fine." But then there's some of Chris's camp is saying that he said, "No, they asked me if I thought Will should leave," and I was like, "No, if they asked me should he be arrested, and I said no, it's fine." However, he didn't say if they asked him to leave, they would have got a different answer, right?
Oh,
so we're hearing different things, but so that's where kind of that came from.
And I heard some of that, and I felt like they were scapegoating that. Like, well, he said don't arrest, so that's why we didn't have him leave. I'm like, when someone hits someone, you don't ask them to leave somewhere. When you tell them they're going to leave, or this could escalate.
Right.
But if let's be real, if this was a D-list celebrity that hit Chris Rock, there would be no chair there for him to sit at after he comes back off the stage. Like he would have been out so quick. There wouldn't have been a question. He would have been out.
Do we think he would have made it to the stage even? That's my question.
Exactly. He wouldn't even be nominated if he's D-list, like, or whatever. Let's not even go down that rabbit hole. But there was so many elements to where I think whatever producer wanted not to make a scene on behalf of the Academy because they knew that Will won. Like, so how would it look to kick out the winner of an Oscar? Like, we call him and he can't go up. It just makes them look bad. I think they're more thinking about themselves than thinking about, well, we want to just, respect Chris's wishes. And no, it's not about that. Because if you cared about Chris, someone would have took their behind on the stage and would have said, what happened to Chris, we do not condone that. Something. But Chris is back there. He was asked to do this. He does his job. He gets assaulted. And then he leaves. And then not only that, but then he still protects the man that hit him. He still protects the man that hit him and says, don't do that. Because perhaps he realized maybe there's more to that joke I didn't realize, or whatever. Maybe he thought, man, maybe he snapped. I don't want to do that to Will. But someone should have done something for Chris. And I was really, really, I was disgusted that Will got to speak and that people were standing up. I was like, this is crazy. And I think actually, did you guys hear Jim Carrey? He gave a take. Jez, why are you making that look? Okay, do you guys care if I play this 3-minute video of Jim Carrey on this? Okay. Let's do that.
By the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood, I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
Jim Carrey weighing in on Will Smith's Oscar controversy during a new interview with Gayle King for CBS Mornings.
They asked Chris, do you want to file charges? And Chris apparently said, no, he did not.
He doesn't want the hassle. I'd announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous.
Jim Carrey was on hand promoting his new movie, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but yeah, he made it clear how he felt about Will Smith's actions on Sunday night.
You do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
Since Sunday night, the Academy has launched a formal review into Smith's actions on stage, and Will has since issued a statement apologizing to Chris Rock, saying in part, quote, "I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I was embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness." On Sunday, Extra spoke to many stars who also weighed in on Will's behavior.
You watched the show. I'm sure you saw the moment everyone is talking about between Chris and Will. Your thoughts?
I don't condone violence. I just don't see any reason for it. I do know that if you could have any comedian and the rest of the show, everyone was being ridiculed in some way.
Right.
The only difference was, I think if you're a celebrity and you're in there, you know that's going to happen.
Sure.
Maybe, this was his wife, so it was different.
Right.
But I'm not sure you run up and punch someone in the face.
If you remember, Chris hosted.
Okay. So, does anyone have any thoughts on Jim's take?
I would like to say something on that because one of the things, two things, you said something that I really wanted to speak to as well. But, he said, of course he doesn't want the hassle, and I'd sue him for $200 million because that's something where it's interesting he's saying that. It's like you somehow let somebody know this is unacceptable because this is on the internet. This is it for now. This is it, right? This is what people are going to remember, not only about the Oscars, but about no matter what these two men do with the rest of their careers, this will be their moment, right? That they remember. And that's unfortunate. And that's just, quite frankly, it's sad. But the other thing I wanted to say that you said that, what about Chris? And I'm glad to think about it because no one mentioned him after. No one said, "Oh my gosh, Chris, are you all right? That was really, I hope he's okay. I hope this is," no mention of it through the rest of the night for whoever had the microphone. Chris was not mentioned at all. And that's unfortunate. That's, and I feel bad for him in that way of that someone got, Will did what he did and he was able to apologize. People were consoling him. This and that was happening. People were giving him words of wisdom and he came up and did a speech and thanked everyone and did all these things. And no one mentioned Chris. And that is scary to me. It's disturbing. No one mentioned Chris and how sorry they were. And I think that's really telling about where we are. And that's where Jim Carrey had said, he's like, wow, this is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Actually, the first thing I thought about and tweeted about was Chris Rock because that was ridiculous. But then too, I almost had a thought because this is Hollywood. And I mean, I'm not by any means an A-list celebrity, but I've been around. And I always have that side thought of what's the agenda behind things. Because the reason why first of all, this is a weapon of mass distraction. Number one, there is almost a part of me that thinks there could have been a moment or a discussion, and this is all hypothetical or a guess, that Jada, somebody had a conversation and knew something was going to go down, and this is the moment he chose, and this is why it was allowed. Because I don't know how accurate this is, but first of all, Pfizer sponsors everything. I had a chance to host an interview at the upfronts, and long story short, they like own everything, they choose everything because it's really based off the commercials that run. So knowing that they sponsored this thing, and now they're advertising an alopecia drug and all this stuff, sometimes I'm just like, oh, was this a stunt? Chris didn't know, but could there have been another discussion somewhere else? And we'll never know. And I think it's this type of behavior that we need to stay cognizant of. And this is why we have that barrier. I think, Eric, you were talking about it, but yeah, we do look at these people like personas because that's how they are sold to us. So it's up to us to be cognizant of the fact that, yeah, these are humans. Of course, would we think Will Smith, the only actor that could be in a Christian home and we could run all his movies and, is going to do something like that? No, but it's up to us to realize that these people are human. We can put them, I really don't like the whole pedestal thing, but I just want people to realize, like, we're literally and constantly being sold. Okay? You're being sold and marketed to every second. So we get to choose how we engage in these things, and what we allow our minds and actions and reactions to be, because I don't know. I don't trust. Hollywood is a weird place, y'all. I don't trust everything all the time.
Do you think that this was a stunt that Chris didn't know about, or do you think this is all a hoax? Because there's a lot of people thinking.
I don't think Chris knew about it. Think Chris knew about it. But for what Will and Jada's tweet before, wanting to, choosing chaos, like, how do we know we're not being sold? How do we know they didn't have a conversation about having a moment? And that's the moment. Will is an A-list actor. If anybody is on here trained as an actor, you're taught to not improvise, but you show up in moments. You know when those moments are, because you know the human mind, the human condition, what people play. Like, acting is an art, and he's really good at it. So there's nothing that tells me, I don't know. He could have had a conversation. We'll never know about it. I'm just saying, I don't ever leave things just to what we see it is, as shock factor and value, because I always got my eyes open on these people. It's crazy out there. Like, it's
with that though, how would that benefit him though? Go ahead, Freddie.
That's what I was going to ask.
They might be getting a cut of the Pfizer. I don't know, the alopecia money, Pfizer sponsorships, safety, medicine. Like, we'll never know that.
Well, if you look at it financially, because I actually spoke to a mentor of mine about it just today, who's 80 years old and been in the industry over 50 years, right? And he said this could have been a publicity stunt, because everybody and why they're saying that, not that anyone else knew. Now here's the thing, maybe no one else knew, right? So that's why it's still stunning, it's still traumatizing, still what it is. Shame on them for pulling it, if it is. But the point being that Chris Rock's tickets are selling for $1,700 a ticket now, right? Versus the 46 they started at. Will Smith has
$46. They were 46 bucks.
So that's why I can see where people have that thought process. But to me, it says we're still a dysfunctional nation where someone would do something like that. He told me it's something that's been going on since the 30s and 40s, my mentor. And I believe that those things, and because look at people do the sickness, like, you're saying, we are bought and sold every time. People get hooked on the fame. They want to stay in the limelight. They've got to keep doing something. They've got to have something out there. For me, I don't think, I can't subscribe to the thought that it could have been planned or a publicity stunt, just from my thoughts. Either way, it doesn't make me feel any better about it, right? That's unfortunate. But, I think that speaking to that, have been in, Hollywood, swam in those waters for a little bit. No, by no means an A-list or anything like that. But, as a matter of fact, Eric and I have spoken about this, Rhoda and I have spoken about this, that Hollywood, it gets very polluted waters. Right. And you deal with things that are unacceptable every day, but you find a way to navigate it, or you step out. Right. I'm not saying it's acceptable. I'm not condoning any of it. But that industry is very, very, very traumatizing. in many ways if you are not aware. And many, I want to see, both. The interesting thing is that these men are 50s, right? Both of them have been in the industry for what, 30 years at least, 30, 35 years. So they've grown up and stayed in those waters for a long time, right? Will has gotten so big that I think the ego is huge. You can see with their whole family, they're not really close to normalcy at all anymore, right? And so sometimes you get far away from that, you lose sight of it. I want to say one thing, and I'll be quiet, but I think, because I saw a comment that someone said Jada isn't to blame. It's not about blame here, but I will say there's a dysfunctional relationship on display for us to see, and we see all the symptoms of it. And I think it's disturbing. And I think part of that is also the sickening factor of how much people are okay displaying the problems in their lives, and how much people are okay watching it and accepting it and bringing it out without all. Because here's the thing, we're not seeing the discussion of, hey, let's get help. Let's talk about this. What's wrong? We're not seeing that enough. We just see the symptoms of everything. And now it's become addictive TV.
Yeah, but see, healthy people, healthy conversations, and healthy countries don't need prescriptions, don't need wine, don't need entertainment, don't need some of the biggest money industries that we have. So as a collective, we need to start thinking, in my opinion, bigger than Hollywood. I definitely don't think that Chris Rock knew what was happening, but I really do think perhaps other people did, especially to Will Packer being the first Black producer. And I love Will Packer and his stuff, and I still love Will Smith, but I just think he's a reality TV show producer. If you remember what even happened with the presidency, who was politics really so much of a conversation amongst millennials and all this? No, but you put a reality star dude in there, Trump going nuts into it, and now we have a thing. And so I just think we need to be careful with that. Additionally, let's also not forget the bigger picture of social data grabs. They done got so much data off of all of us from how we reacted to this. It's just like, I cannot look at this slap, as mutually like.
And here I am, like hosting a panel. I'm like,
no, but it's y'all, the data grab on this. Come on,
that's really good though. That's a good point.
That's interesting. Like the social data, I didn't think about that, to be honest. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, this is sold. I mean, help them sell a lot of papers. A lot of people are like tuning into like different.
Because no one's been watching the Oscars. No one's been watching.
Yeah, but I'm like, Will really sacrifice it all? Would he be the sacrificial lamb? Like, I don't know about that.
I don't think Will thought that this would happen. To be, look at me like going down Jamie's like his spirit. Okay, I'll go with this. I'll go with this. Let's just say, I'm going to say Will really did that. I think that what transpired after, with him not leaving, with him going on and giving a speech, with him even going to the after party and being surrounded by people and him singing, getting jiggy with it, and people like Instagramming it and having like doubling down almost on what happened. He was still in the Hollywood world, though we did not hit him yet. Twitter didn't hit him yet. Like the real world consequences didn't hit him. He thought he was good because he's Will Smith's the American good guy. Like he's been the good guy. Well, I know, Eric, you have your own qualms about him, but
that's a very good point.
On a general scale, I think that was also the shocking factor, is he hit him, and also it's Will Smith hitting someone and doing violence. But Will, so all of you made these points, after he left the stage and hit him, and during the break, he has all these celebrities coming up and consoling him. So then he feels like he didn't do anything wrong, or people on his side. He's telling people he's not going to leave. They go away. He's like, okay, my power's being represented here. He gets on stage. He gives a speech crying, and people are dancing around him. I don't think he thought this was going to happen. I think he thought, like, people will understand why I did this. That was avenging my wife. But his charm could get him out of it, but his charm didn't work this time.
I think if I
Yeah.
can speak to that, because that's a great point there, and I really want to say something, and I'm going to quote Eric on this, and he and I had a conversation a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this, and he was like, it's interesting that Will Smith, like you had said, he was the All-American, everybody loved him, right? And it was and Eric said, yeah, that's why it's kind of like it hurts more. And what I'll say is he was in the discussion we had with two was we had a frank discussion on Will Smith was the safe black male, right? He was the safe black male that the poster can go in the white family's kid's house, right? They can listen to his rap music, right? You can watch the Fresh Prince. You can do that. Why I'm saying that is that that's something that as a black community we think about, right? Being the black that's okay. You're the one that's acceptable. You're the one that's here. You're the one that's all right, right? And I'm not saying that like people. I'm not making a thing on that. I'm just saying like that there was that thought, and then when that came out, the violence and the things that come out and the thought process and even him swearing and saying these things, especially he made a whole song about I don't have he doesn't swear, right? But then here we are, we're doing this. And what we fight every day and what we fought, listen, he's the fifth black man to receive an Oscar in the history of the Oscars, okay? He is the fifth, man. And what I'm saying is the Oscars, like as an actor, it's like you're there. That's the high class. That's the top. That's where you are. You were this way. Example is Denzel, right? Would be the ideal of that, right? Where he's poised, he's respectful. He's respected. He's respectful with his wife, all these things. And then Will does that. It pulls us back to, people say you can't take you can't take your people anywhere, right? Where it's like, wow. People were saying, is this the Source Awards? Wow, is that what we're known for too? Like that's not.
But I didn't like that, dude. I don't like people equating black platforms or forums to messiness. Why does it have to be? Oh, is this the BET Awards? Is this the Source Awards? Is this yeah. Like, can we not do that? Like, and I'm not talking to you, Richard, because I know you're referencing. I'm saying, like, literally, let's be honest. The Oscars, let's quit acting like they weren't trash. Like, I forgot that one movie. It was a black and white in the 50s. A black woman was nominated. I forgot the name, but and it's a famous movie, well known. But the actress was black, and she was the maid in the movie and was nominated for an Oscars. I believe it was in the 40s or 50s. She couldn't even sit with her cast. She had to sit in the back with her family, still in the segregation. Nominee couldn't sit with her cast at the Oscars. So I'm gonna need the Oscars and people trying to equate the Oscars as in, sure, we position it up here because it has been like that. But it's not been high class all the time. Like they've had their trifling moments, and trifling does not equate to black people. So I'm gonna need for people to quit doing that. And also, Will didn't set black people back. Will set himself back.
Yes, absolutely. I want to clear that, because I don't want to say that because we always, a lot of times that can happen. Oh, this person did that. We're all in. No, you're right. He's responsible for his own actions, and that's that. So I just want to agree with that.
Yes. Thank you, Chicken Chop Suey, for
yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just because,
Hollywood. So many thoughts stimulated. I mean, Hollywood is definitely a bubble. It has a lot of the aspects. I lived there for 14 years.
Oh, Lord.
It has a lot of the aspects of a religion, and it's not aware of it. Like any religion, it has its own pantheon of gods. And this whole idea of Chris Rock being beta is sort of a clown god, the small guy. The idea of Will Smith walking across the stage and doing what he did is a sort of Sonny Corleone sort of thing. It's a tough guy. And we talked about mental health, his ego. And a lot of my friends are going to be shocked that I'm sounding a note, the ones that are watching, in favor of this value. But I also want to mention maturity. Because I have a wife, and we've been together for 25 years. Incidentally, she's Black, so that fits into other parts of the conversation. I won't unpack that aspect of it, but I have been in positions where I've quote unquote stood up for her, and I'm 44 now, or I'm going to be 44, and I've never hit anyone on her behalf, but I've yelled at people, and I've intimidated people, and I've stepped up to people, and I won't say a lot. I could probably maybe 6 times, but I don't think I've done it since I was 24. So, and not, again, this is not to judge him or his maturity process. There's plenty of areas in which I'm still very juvenile, but so it's not about judgment. It's just being an East Coast kid, like a Godfather kid. I grew up around Russian kids and Italian kids and Irish kids, so we're like kids that watch The Godfather. So in the archetypes of that world, there's Vito, and of course in that world they're all gangsters and murderers. So just putting that aside, just within the values within that bubble, Vito is the patient, loving, almost maternal. He's paternal in the movie, but a lot of his quotes came from Mario Puzo's mother. He's like a maternal figure. He's patient and loving and wise, and he has reason. Vito is marked by reason. There's also the Sonny archetype, who's marked by impulse and temper, and it gets him killed. And I think we saw, and I point to Vito and Sonny because it's like the most popular movie ever made. But those archetypes are present all over Hollywood. They're in the pantheon of gods, and I absolutely. Just like Brittany and Freddie are here, they're siblings. I have an older sister too, and I've been in situations where it was my older sister that was offended, and I stepped up to the person, whatever. And I always thought of Sonny Corleone because he defends his sister, and that influenced me as a kid. And it was an absolute in the bubble unreality thing where he, within that system, within that religion, there was a certain God. And he was enacting it. I think, Brittany, you're right on point in terms of he really did think we were all with him. He thought he was the hero in that narrative, and that everybody not only was ready to snap because of COVID and this and that, but a lot of people want to see a comedian get hit specifically. So he was standing up for that cause too. So I tried. I was listening for 20 minutes. I was like, all right, how much of this can I collate at once? But I want to hit the maturity thing. I mean, as men, and Rich and I talked about this also in the past couple of days, being in our 40s, I can't do that anymore. I can't yell at anyone. I can't do it. My blood pressure gets high. I have a panic attack. It's over. It's over, that part of my life. It was over in my late 30s. I'm not saying I'm hot-headed. I don't want to paint a misleading picture of my temper or anything like that. But certainly now as a father and a husband, it is putting mental health aside, there's physical health. If I was in an altercation like that, I would say 75% chance I'm in the ER with an EKG to make sure I'm okay. I mean, it's just over, and it's not acceptable behavior. That's it. I tried to make 400 points at once.
Why do you? Oh, go ahead, Richard.
I really quickly, Eric. The maturity thing is, when I was 24, and actually we were all in Hollywood at this time. And there was a fight in a club, and a friend of mine and I left, and a fellow actor, and we left. And outside, we said, this is so ridiculous, because it cut down the whole night. We were young. We were having a great time, and the whole night's done, right? And one of the things he said, you know what? We said, we're grown men, and if we're fighting, things have gotten out of hand. And that's where it's at. I mean, that was 24, right? And as if you're fighting, it's come to that. It's the base. It's base. It's feral. We're all the way down to all we can do is fight physically, right? You're threatened. Your life. You're this. It's come down to that. And that's where I think maturity sets.
Yeah. The behavior is also in terms of these entities like Smith and Rock being products. The behavior has been marketed to us too. So it's it's been made appealing and sexy, whether it's under the guise of standing up for a woman or what have you. And it's totally divorced from how it feels in the body, in the nervous system, viscerally, on the ground. Like Rich, you just said, it would have to be the last resort. It's it comes down to it. It becomes base physical brute force, and that's it. And there's such a gap between what that actually is and what it is to be punched in the face and what so many people think it is. And it's it's and I think I learned how big the gap was in the past several days.
it's an interesting thought too. Is we have the UFC, which is very prevalent right now. But why I say that is that it's two people that can get in the ring and literally beat the mess out of each other, and then hug at the end and not really have any issue with each other. I've done martial arts, boxed, I've done all kinds of things, and I never at any time was okay to go in there and just beat someone up to a severe nature that, that they're for no reason except that I wanted to win. I stopped boxing for that. It was, I didn't like getting hit, but I didn't really love hitting other people, right? And so unless I'm based down to my anger where that's it, it's an interesting thought. Like Eric said, it's a sexy thing now, right? How many people, he's tough, he can beat up somebody, he can do this and that. But the reality is it's dangerous. That's a dangerous place to be. And it's just kind of scary, I think. And I say America as a whole. And again, like I want to reiterate the point that Brittany, you made in the beginning. This is not just about Will and Chris. This is so much more right now. Let's look at the fact that the last 3 years were pretty much a dumpster fire for life as we know it, right? We had ridiculous things. Even I don't want to get politically. We had a ridiculous political scenario. We had all these things. We were locked in our houses. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have human interaction. We had a bunch of things go wrong and sideways. We were under a lot of things. And so it's like, it just, I think also for everyone, which I'm glad to see us all, everybody not letting it go. And I say that because America has a thing of, oh, that was terrible, but it was last week's news. So we move on like it didn't happen, but we don't realize we've desensitized ourselves and brought that behavior into normalcy now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's off the table until the next thing comes, which is it's gonna come. So I don't know if we're that good. I don't give us that yet.
I don't give us that much. Oh, I was gonna say because everyone was talking about Ukraine, and now no one's really talking about Ukraine that much, like on Twitter at least. And now everyone's talking about that. It's just people move on, ebb and flow. But I do feel like this is going to be in conversation for a while. But go ahead, Jaimi. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'll share one thing. I'll share this first. Like you said, people were talking about Ukraine and all this and that. I believe when it comes to the algorithm, I see the algorithm as collective consciousness, because the way that works, people will tell you posting this many times, post at this time for the best engagement. But what really gets the best engagement is how long we focus on whatever we're looking at. So what you're seeing in the feeds and what you're hearing the most of is what we are doing. And so that is constantly manipulated and played with, whether we like it or not, because it's data. Isn't that what we do for our personal pages? We look at our analytics, we see which videos are performing the best, which is taking the most time, the most views, and we plan accordingly. So that's what's happening, one. And then two, when you assault someone, that's an invitation to get assaulted. So I really hope people are not out here like that, because people is carrying, there's all these things. Will could have never, you opened yourself up to get shot. Like, I feel attacked. Like, people kind of forget that, like, oh, I bullied, or oh, I showed him, or I'm protecting my wife. Keep that same energy when someone's protecting themselves. So if you're not ready for that, it's probably better to keep your hands to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Eric, Jamie's like, and that's my TED Talk. Eric, I do want to say something about, you said, and I'm just curious, because you said people are just waiting for a comedian to get punched. Are you talking about because of the conversation around Dave Chappelle, or do you just mean comedy in general, because it's been polarizing? And
oh man, you walked me right into it, didn't you? Chappelle was another culmination point. He was the culmination point before this culmination point. I think again, it goes hand in hand. I'm trying to find the most diplomatic way to talk about this. Everybody has a microphone, right? So before social media, everybody didn't have a microphone. And at a comedy show, there's usually people laughing and enjoying themselves because they go there to laugh and enjoy themselves. And there's often people, like maybe in the front row or somewhere, that are just grim the whole time. And comedians know about this phenomenon. And that's usually the person they think about the most, because how can they win them over and all these things. Now we live in a culture where millions of the grim-faced person in the audience, millions of representatives of that temperament, who aren't in the mood to laugh, who don't think things are funny, have microphones. And we hear from them. Now, that doesn't mean I think everybody or everything is funny, or I don't think there are comedians that can be crass or rude or demeaning. I also want to say, since I'm on the topic, that verbal, and I'm glad it took this long for the conversation to even go to this, verbal hurt is really serious. I mean, as a journalist, I've been on the receiving end of that on social media, and it hurts so badly. It's awful. I don't sleep. It's ruinous. So I don't want to make light of the power of words. Quite the contrary. As a writer, I would hope that words are powerful, for good or ill. It's a powerful force of energy and communication. And thank you, Jaimi, for allowing me to talk in that language. I didn't know there'd be a collective unconscious component. I was like, okay, so let me not get carried away. But yeah, so basically, comedians are one of the rare non or semi-corporatized form of artists in mass culture. I can't say they're non-corporatized because you have people like Rock and Chappelle getting huge deals from Netflix, where they're getting tens of millions for specials. So they are part of the establishment. But I say, to be really funny, a lot of people say to be really funny, you have to be offensive. I don't think that's true. To be really funny, however, and I don't mean to be dogmatic about this because there's a million ways to be funny, I do think you have to be willing to say what other people are too afraid to say. And I do want to say also, since that just came out of my mouth, I didn't think his joke about Jada was good. I didn't, that's not a hill to die on. I didn't think that means he knew or it was mean-spirited. There's so many ways to pick that apart. It was just a lame joke. It was just a soft, middling joke at best, as a side note. But there's a certain political infused attitude that runs through Hollywood, that runs through mass media, that runs through academia, and that runs through corporations, that comedians, to be really good at what they do, can't really conform to or align to. So it's created this strange cross-eyed paradox where a lot of comedians, Joe Rogan is one example, and oh my God, I can't believe this. All right, okay. No, I'm happy to talk about it. Okay. A lot of comedians get called right-wingers, right? Like just as a matter of course, because they said this or that problematic thing. But it's speech is so messy, multivariate, multi-layered. Comedians are playing with electricity and fire. It's a very unstable thing. It's almost a mystical or psychic sort of thing to actually elicit from other human beings ha 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 and make them make noise. It's a really strange thing. And it's very unstable, and where the lines are is very hard to see. And I think in the current culture where everybody has a microphone, we have heard from the people that aren't in a mood to laugh. They don't want to laugh at themselves. They don't want to laugh at the human condition. They don't want to think things are ridiculous or worthy of satire. Everything's an emergency. Everything's dead serious. Everything demands stoicism, reverence, and those people have wanted to punch comedians or see comedians get theirs. And Rock became the symbol in a metaphysical sense of that energy. And I think Will's Rich and I talked about this too. He's something of a comedian. He's got one foot in that world. And in his apology, he sort of, gave deference to that it is part of the job to be ribbed and roasted and so forth. But he's not a full-blown comedian. He's not a stand-up. That's not his main stock and trade. He's an actor. He's a movie star. And he's not really in that world. And I think we saw within him and his reaction some iteration of the stoicism that has become fashionable to those who would like to say that comedy is a documentary or nonfiction, or the comedian said this, and they will just say the comedian said it and use their name and say that was a fact and print it, as opposed to contextualizing the comedian as carrying the historical archetype of a clown figure that's there to say inappropriate things, to say the unthinkable, and to sow a little bit of chaos. And I think in the past week, we saw the chaos become violent. So then all of us are there's a drop in cognition in terms of where the line is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Richard.
What I want to say is, to Eric's point, everyone's got a mic. As a comedian, one of the frustrations is everybody's got a mic. Everybody can make a video or even do it. They think because they I tell funny stuff that they're a comedian now. So why I want to say that is we have to remember comedy is an art. When, I decided, comedy stand-up comedy, especially, it's an art. And why I say that is, look, there are ways that I had to learn to, how do I say this? I had to learn to tell a joke properly, right? I had to learn to properly tell a story, all these things, right? So why I'm saying that is, like Eric was saying, everybody has mic. So it doesn't mean they understand that part and they think that, just to be mean, just to be this, just to be controversial, just to be that is part of being a comedian. It isn't. There's an art to how you tell a joke, and everybody's style, you have to learn what your style is. Chris Rock's style is, he does a lot of self-deprecating humor. He does a lot of also, he's snappy. He does biting. Dave Chappelle's different. You have Seinfeld who's different. I tell it's a comedian's mind also is different. There's many times you tell a joke and it doesn't land right? You go, I mean, I've told jokes in one room, at the Comedy Store, it's like there's like 5 rooms, right? And we used to joke and say, you do show in that room, it was great, it killed. You went next door, no one liked it. So you're trying, you're telling the joke, you're doing what you're doing. It's an art to try to get it out, but also what I'm saying is that anyone who's practicing doing the art the way it is, just the same as acting, you're not there to hurt anyone. You're not there to be mean. You're not there to do anything. You're there as a comedian to tell jokes and make people laugh. And it is about the things that nobody wants to say. It's the way nobody thought about it. It's the way nobody even looked at it. It's all these things. And that's what comedy is, and why I say it. So it's like you say, his joke wasn't great, but okay, fine. It was something he threw out there, wanted to see where it went. But it wasn't an assault on her. It was not.
Yeah,
it was not an assault on her person. It wasn't an assault on her being. Go ahead. Yeah.
Comedy is also what's so respectable about it is it's one of the only art forms that requires an audience. So a lot of times that's why stand-ups that create an hour of material for their special are out on the road honing it and rehearsing it for like a year before we see the outcome, which is just filled with like total, like unbelievably successful jokes. Like they do that, they workshop it. They have to do it actually in front of crowds to get there. They can't do it in front of their spouse or their friend. And it's not like that. It's not like when I'm like writing a book and I send it out to 3 people. They need to make a room laugh. So it's an amazing thing. And sorry, somebody was. Rich, where were we before a second ago?
Well, we were just saying the art of comedy and the things that it takes, and it's
that's right. That's exactly
the last.
They don't
one
know.
thing, Eric, just to say before, it's the last bastion of free speech. People have said.
Yeah, that's a big part of the whole conversation around it. And the point when I dropped the point was Rock with that sort of riffing coming out there. He doesn't know, even though comedy is his trade, he doesn't know where the line is. Like he doesn't know. Like maybe he knows she has the syndrome. He probably didn't. But even if he did. Maybe he thinks G.I. Jane is a compliment, or maybe he thinks she's too confident to care. Like there's so many variables he could go on forever. And I don't mean to hyper defend him because I want to repeat that words can be incredibly hurtful, and I've been on both sides of it. But you don't know in the spur of the moment where the line is. I mean, that's just part of being funny. It's part of being funny with your friends. It's like, you take a chance, you take a shot, and it's like, oh, that one didn't go over, and then, oh wow, that one hit. Yeah, it's an unstable thing where there's lines, and even the comedian doesn't know where they are. And to hone the specials that are so popular, they're out there finding out what works and what doesn't for months.
And I mean, just really quick, just as an on-camera host and somebody who has to fill space in a particular way and pick up things as I'm seeing things, like, first of all, I grew up in the 90s too, and G.I. Jane was amazing. Demi Moore looked bomb. Her hair looks just like Jada's looks right now. This is not a dig. It looks the same to the eyeball, regardless of why. So I just think when you're hosting and talking and G.I. Jane and I just don't really think he was like trying to be funny or missed a rehearsed joke or a trashy comedy. I don't even think it was that massive, number one. But, number two, I do get the thing with Chris Rock because there was something that Shawn Wayans did, and he kind of like predicted the slap. I don't know if you guys saw, but Chris Rock has been talking dirty about people forever, and Shawn Wayans did a whole thing, and he was emulating. He was Chris Rock. and saying everything he was saying at whatever award show it was. And somebody did get up and slap him, and then they all started jumping him. You know, he had said something like, "Oh, the Backstreet Boys, blah, blah, blah. Which one's going to get Britney Spears pregnant? That'd be the bad Backstreet Boy." Da, da, da. You know, just wild stuff. So he's been wild, and I can see how some people don't like him, but I can also see how some things are funny. But back to what both of you said, Eric and Richard, this is comedy. They're supposed to say the things that nobody says. That's what comedy is. If you don't like it, don't sit in the front row, don't attend the show, and whatever else. But this is what that lane is. I'm not a fan of politics. Am I going to get up and go slap the next person? You know, there's a lot of things I don't like, you know, like, I don't know. We're getting a little bit too tender. Yes, when you're verbally assaulting somebody and let's say you're routing up a crowd to go attack somebody, words can be powerful and things like that. Eric, you said that. But when it's in the context of what this is, I don't know. I'm getting sad because I like a good wild comedian. Like, I don't know.
I do. I like a comedian that will make fun of me. Like if I was in the front row and they were making fun of me, I'd laugh. Because it's a joke, you know what you're coming to. I do think this speaks to a larger, actually, maybe not even a larger thing. I think we're actually in the thick of it right now in this conversation, with just our different perspectives and our different experiences and the intent of jokes, or what we think the intent of jokes is. Because to most people, that joke was just a lame joke, wasn't funny. But to Jada, that was a direct attack on her womanhood, on her hair condition, so it depends on what that person receives it's like their perception. Because everyone else in that room laughed because they probably didn't know about her condition, but she knew. So this one joke that he makes hit her at the core of herself, but then everyone else lost. What I'm afraid of, and there's been a lot of comedians, and I actually want to get your take, Richard, because you're a comedian, correct? Or where's Richard? Where's Richard? Okay, Eric, maybe you can.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just moving the camera, so. But I'm here, though. I'm with you.
There's been a lot of comedians now saying, like, they are afraid of how now stand-up will look like, because they feel like this will maybe set a precedent on how people will approach comedians if they say something that offends them. Instead of just heckling, now they feel like, do I need to get security? Is this going to be a thing where I got to like really censor myself to make sure I don't offend people? Then I lose my funny, I lose my craft, I lose what I love to do. Is this something that you've been hearing, Richard, like with comedian friends, like thinking this shifts everything?
Yeah, because, it does, because it was like the golden rule, and what was your protection was you were not going to get assaulted, right? You knew that you had to address something, but you didn't think you were going to get assaulted, right? I have a friend who's traveled, all over the United States. He played and this is a Black comedian. He was playing deep in Alabama, and he was deep in Tennessee. And he went to some places that, he was the only Black person there, and there was a Confederate flag behind the bar, right? And he could tell jokes, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. And he wasn't afraid of these guys going to jump me because I'm, you know what I mean? Like you knew that they respect that. Hey, they don't like him. They don't like the jokes. Maybe they're whatever happens, but he's the comedian. You don't assault him, right? Now, is that gone? Is that protection of, touring and doing different things? Is that gone? And I think about that, like, I've emceed shows, done things, and like you said, like Jaimi had said, you're riffing, you're doing stuff off the cuff, you're going with the moment, blah 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 blah. You have no idea that something hurt somebody. So does that mean something's going to get hurled from the back of the room, or someone's going to come and it's going to, because the thing, way back in quote unquote, when they weren't civilized things, it was okay to throw a tomato and to do things. That became where we don't do that, right? We're more civilized. We don't do that stuff anymore. That's not allowed. Well, now people are like, because there's jokes that, like I said, you don't know what works, right? And when you're figuring out what's your thing and what do you do, you might throw one out there that's like, whoops, you know, I mean, we've all done it, right? Where you've said something and stuck your foot in your mouth, right? Does that mean you need to get assaulted? Does that mean you don't have a right to say, hey, look, maybe I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that? Or, hey, you know what, I've been thinking, I'm going to change this up a little bit. But people, there is now some reservation, which is going to get in the way. As an artist, if you have a reservation, that can hinder your art, whatever it is, right? If you're a painter and you're not sure if people like, you know, this and then that, so you're not going to paint to the freedom that you would, right? If you're an actor, you're afraid of how, then you're not going to be free to do this. If you're a singer, all these things are inhibitive, and comedians have been, you know, that was saying the last bastion of free speech. What we've been surviving on is, hey, we're still allowed to keep it real and to say what we need to say. And people, and they're just like Eric was saying, there's people that are mad and do it, but there are people out there like, oh my goodness, thank God they can still say this. Thank God we can still laugh and not be canceled for laughing at a joke, not be canceled for hearing a joke. Comedy's been under fire for a lot of things lately, but never did people feel they would be assaulted, and that's a very scary thing.
Mm-hmm. And I want to get you guys' take. Why do you think comedy as of late has been under attack so much, and even celebrity? Because it seems like once there's a little chink in someone's armor, someone could be held up high here. Let's just give Ellen for an example. Ellen was be kind, everyone, be kind. Everyone loved Ellen. Right when there was a chink in her armor that someone's like, Ellen wasn't kind to me, and here's a whole thread of people that said it. Now her last season is this year or next year. And even with Will, like, why do you think that, do you think the pandemic has something to do with people not wanting to believe the fantasy anymore, the facade, like the fantasy of what celebrity is, and or even like people don't find that inspirational or aspirational anymore, or like maybe even the fantasy that comedy gives us, and people don't like that and feel like offended and like, why do you think these things are happening more so in the past 2 or 3 years?
I think people are tired.
Yeah, there's a
go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, real fast, then you can do it. There's a predominant atmosphere that so many things are so serious. And you don't like, and again, it goes hand in hand, because I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's because we're hearing so many voices at once. So there's light being shed on so many causes at once. And it's not to demean the causes, but it puts the role of making jokes out of things into serious question. And then I think, you know, for those of us on the left, the presence of Trump at all times, he was essentially like the greatest troll of all time. He was constantly sticking his fingers in our most sensitive buttons over and over again. And, you know, and it was upsetting, and it was sad, and it was demeaning and dehumanizing. And there's just been a lot of that, whether it's the political situation or COVID. And yeah, it's hard times for a clown.
I see this person in the chat talking about me and my family have a dark sense of humor, and we laugh about some messed up things, and it helps. Well, even in that clip that you played, that Brittany, the clip that you played that Jada did, she was just like, I'm gonna just have to laugh at this. So, you know, is it humor and lighthearted and, you know, accepting your condition, or is it let me send my husband on stage to get crazy? Like, you know, that's just one thing. But I think social media, and what you said, Eric, you said it perfectly when it goes to your question, Brittany, like why all of a sudden us seeing the cracks in this, you know, what is it like the Wizard of Oz pulling the curtain? You know what I'm saying? You pull behind the curtain, it's just this little guy like working all this stuff. I really think social media has so much to do with it, combined with like the seriousness of everything going on. Everybody's offended. Everybody is so offended, like literally, like by everything. Everything is an offense.
You just offended me, Jaimi. Bye. Just kidding.
Exactly. She said offended 3 times in a row, and people who repeat themselves remind me of my mom, and that's traumatic. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's concerning. Okay. I'm an 80s baby. We didn't grow up like this. Like, this has all been moving really fast. But I think social media has Yeah, I think social media has a lot to do with it, especially because the people behind us, this is how they grew up. So there's something, I don't know what it is, but it's different. I find myself needing to disconnect from social media because, again, when you're looking at the algorithm as collective consciousness, they tell you the same thing about positive thoughts. What you focus on grows. Why do you think that's not going to be the same when you're looking at social media? So I think we all have personal responsibility to be able to tell the difference between real and fake. The only reason you're going to fall out over Ellen not taking a picture with you and seeing a whole thread about it is if you had a messed up attachment to it in the first place. This is an inside job. These are all personal people's issues. And if we're not looking in the mirror about how we idolize things, the way we're seeing things, and our responsibility for it, then I mean, we're just going to keep getting what we're getting with all this chaos.
Yeah.
Lord, 10 years from now?
Oh, God. I want to speak to that because I don't even think people are offended all the time, but I think people are hurt. Like in their lives, they're hurt. And when they do all these call outs, like they want a public apology from Will, they want a public apology from Ellen, or all these celebrities, what they really want is the apology they're not getting from the person that hurt them in their real life. So it's like
Go to therapy.
They're using all these people as like the placeholders for their mom or their dad or their sister or their friend. Like, I'm not getting what I need from them, the love I need from them, the attention. So you, person I don't know, you're going to give me that. I'm going to demand that, or I'm going to cancel you. Like, I think that is what a lot of people's energy is. I know, no good.
I think
it really
a lot
makes
of people are
no
tired.
sense. It's so upsetting. Like it's very damaging to our relationships, to our communities, to our families, our societies. Like this is very damaging to be functioning this way.
I think also though that there's an element of people being tired, and what I mean tired of is it's almost like people are like the celebrity thing, right? People got tired of like there's the whole group of people that are tired of celebrities, right? Because now, like you said, the social media aspect. This wasn't there when like you knew celebrities and that, but you didn't know them, and they weren't, self-aggrandized. We have to remember the selfie started Kim Kardashian, this and that. Look at my life. Look how great I am. Look how much money I make. Look how much of this and that. And so why I'm saying that is imagine being tired and frustrated, and you don't have any money. You're working overtime. You're trying to figure it out, and then you're a young person who thinks that's the way of life, right? To be able to be this way and act this way and do and you can't do that. So now you're tired and you're like, you know what? I don't want to hear any more about you. Oh, see, you're not so great, right? But none of these are balanced thoughts. I'm just saying that I think there's a lot of that as well. And because now it got shoved in your face, celebrity, a life that you are not living. You are not as important as me. You are not as important as this. You are not as important as that. That got pushed in all of our faces, right? And and then what happens? Yeah, there is some jealousy. There is some frustration. You were hurt in your life. Why didn't somebody pay the price, right? Well, who can do it? The person who's most in front of you and is always around. You know what? That person, I want an apology from them. They got to give me something, right? And it's like, because reality is, what is a public apology? I don't want a public apology. I want someone to go get therapy and get help, right? That's what I want. You can say that sorry all you want, but if you slap me Tuesday, not to make a joke of, but I mean, you slap me Tuesday, you're sorry Wednesday, and slap me again on Thursday. That's not going to help. But when you go and you say, I'm going to get help, we're going to get, because we've all done things, we've acted out, we're people. It happens, but we limit the way it does. And I was talking. I mean, my mother is a retired kindergarten teacher, and she used to joke and say, literally, all the things that you learn in your teacher's responsibility in kindergarten are what keep you as an adult. And I would, and it's like, if you don't think that's true, cut a line as an adult and see what happens, right? When did you learn not to cut line? In kindergarten, they told you, don't cut the line, don't go to the front of the line. Imagine going to the front of the line now, right? I'm 45 years old. I cut a line. I know if someone's going to act up.
Oh, I'd be
crazy,
saying,
right?
sir, I was here, sir. Like,
right. You're lucky if you get that, right?
So true. Get in the back. Well, we have two viewers that actually want to join. But
and I have to go.
Yes, and Jaimi has to go. Jaimi, thank you so much for being here for another panel.
Yes.
Love your insight, love your commentary. Can you tell everyone where to find you and find your like podcasts and stuff?
Yes, guys, please, you can follow me here at Jaimi Alexander on Instagram, and you'll find everything there. My link in that bio has every little thing that you could ever find of me. Everything's there. So yeah, thanks for having me. This was a really fun conversation. I said after Thursday I wasn't going to talk about it, but I was happy to talk about it on this platform because
I think I didn't see that because I was like, hey, we're going to talk about it.
I was like, yeah, we're done. Like, we should have been done a day after this. Like, I cannot see anymore. But I do think it's important to like address these things because it speaks to all of us. This is a very community thing. So I'm glad we did this. And thank you, all you brilliant minds who shared. It was fun being on panel with you.
Thank you, Jaimi. See you
Bye,
later.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, Jaimi. Thank you.
Oh, Lord. Okay, Steve, I'm bringing you up. Hey, what's up? Steve has been in the back forever. Literally in the back forever.
It's all right. I'm good with waiting.
Steve has been on one of my panels before too, and it was awesome. He was great. Steve, what is your take on what we've been talking about? What's your thoughts?
You know, I've had to play devil's advocate to this a couple of different ways, but the one that I keep coming back to that I prefer is the question that that Richard brought up is what was going through Will's mind. You know, this to me is a prime example of what is a mental health condition or a mental health problem, where what does it take for you as a veteran celebrity who's been in the business for 40 years, somewhere around there, knows the ins and outs, knows what to do and what not to do, but for some reason an inane joke by, you know, what some people call a has-been comedian gets you up and out of your chair and violent? Like the action was disproportionate to the joke. You know what I mean? And I'm just worried about the where Will's mental health is at this moment, you know, because that's, you know, I started a men's mental health support group back in September. I do that. I also go to therapy myself. And, you know, I noticed that for a while my temper was getting shorter and shorter. And I was like, I don't want to do that to my family and just like go off half cocked at nothing for no apparent reason, you know. And so I sought help. So it makes me question, is Will, where is Will in his head? You know, I'm kind of concerned about that. And so the other thing, to speak to what Eric and I believe it was Richard were talking about, was everybody's got a microphone, but also everybody's got a camera, and you can't hide stuff from us anymore. You know, we saw no shortage of celebrities being out there like, you know, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. And then the next day we see a picture of them at a party, you know, earlier that night, no mask on, partying like, you know, it's a rager. It's like, why are we supposed to trust you anymore? So I think the shiny veneer of celebrity is wearing off.
And it's because of social. I agree. I think it's because of social media. Before, how did we see celebrities and see how their outfits or see who they're dating? It was through magazines. It was printed magazines, and then it was TV, but it wasn't accessible like it is social media and Instagram, Facebook, and all these things. So the veil between celebrity and us, we are realizing, isn't as thick, and we're also able to see behind the curtain easier now. So yeah, I agree with you. We have someone else down there. Did someone get kicked off? Oh, Eric. Oh, Lord. Eric. Okay, I'm going to bring up our next guest. Steve, you can stay if you'd like. Can we do this?
Sure.
I hope. Okay. Pelu. Hello, sorry I messed up your name. What's your name?
Pelu. Mr. Pelu. Yeah, my name is Pelu.
Mr. Pelu.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here. Nice to talk to you, Brittany. I have a lot of friends who absolutely love you and always send me your videos, but I haven't checked you out enough as I should, so I should be checking you out more. I know a lot of people who are like your hugest fans. Anyway, Steve, one of them. I know Steve too. Steve, one of them. This is one issue that really bothered me, only because it was just pure violence. To me, it was violence. It was just a guy, Will Smith, at the top of his career. He is his day basically because he comes there and wins the award anyway. He's nominated. He and like people were saying before, everybody, he's a veteran. He's a veteran entertainer. He's been in this place for so long. For a joke like that to do that, to me, the only reason I think that he even thought he could do that because he thought he could get away with it. I think we should have let him off really easy. He needs to take the backlash. We need to get the backlash off him because the way I look at it, if it was somebody who thought that who he thought he could get a retaliation, he wouldn't have done that. And if and the retaliation comes in many ways. If it was just whoever the person was that he smacked could have physically retaliated that way, or if he get a social backlash or getting canceled, like for example. I, I hear about cancel culture. I don't really know too much about cancel culture and stuff. I know people have been talking about cancel culture forever, and I'm not really part of it. It's something that's not really on my radar that much, right? But if we're gonna have some cancel culture, isn't this the type of stuff people should get canceled for going out and being violent in the public stage in front of everybody? You're going out in the front of the world, and we can say, "Oh, it's a new day. It's Hollywood. People are on social media and they're on this and that." But no, the Oscars has been around forever. The Oscars has been around way before I was born. Now, and probably as long as my dad was born. Probably I don't know how long the Oscars has been around. You're in the biggest stage in Hollywood. You went there and you smacked somebody in the middle of the stage. Like, when have you seen somebody that like no matter how you slice it? I mean, we could say he has mental health, he has this and that. Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Me myself, I've suffered from a speech pathology my entire life. Not one day, and I've been in many fights in my life, but not one day in my life have I fought somebody over making fun of my stuttering, and I've been stuttering my entire life. And not one time. And I've been in hella fights, man. I've been in a fight like 2 months ago. But I never fought somebody over somebody making fun of my speech impediment ever in my life. So those type of things you can't. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a hypersensitivity, and I think we got to get away from that because no matter how you slice it, it was grossly disproportionate. Like, if he wanted to do anything, he could. If he was so upset, he could have got up and left. He could easily got up and left, and he could have showed his pleasure in 1,000 different ways if he wanted to show his displeasure. But that was totally uncalled for, and I don't think we should make any excuses for it. I mean, people go through things all the time. Everybody have a condition. There's nobody not have one condition in life that somebody can talk about. That's not how you deal with things, especially as a grown adult man, and especially in the position you in. You have everything you need in life. Like you're blessed. You're sitting there being blessed, and this is what you're doing. You go smack somebody in the middle of the stage. You're a millionaire actor. You just had a big movie. How long has your career been? Your career has been as long as look, when Fresh Prince was coming out. Okay, when he first came out in the '80s, I was like a baby when he first came out. You've had all this that's your life for all this long, all this blessing, but you want to go in and smack somebody in the middle of the stage? Like, who has ever done that? So no matter what, I think he deserves all the backlash he get. And the reason I say that because the only reason he did it because he assumed he could come out of it cleaner. If he really thought that he could have serious repercussions, he wouldn't have done that. So So the same way we sanction people for doing things we don't like, the same way we sanction in Russia, I think he should get social sanctions for acting violently in this type of stage, because we don't need this in Hollywood. We don't need this in the entertainment. And no matter how you slice it, I'm not saying everybody got to be perfect, whatever, but this is just totally uncalled for, and he crossed all lines of decency, in my humble opinions. Thank you very much. That was my comment for today, and that's why I keep spreading this hashtag cancel Will Smith. I don't even believe in cancel culture. I'm spreading it as to be very thought provoking. Like, if people are getting canceled for all type of stuff, why shouldn't they get canceled for this violence? Thank you very much. And very unnecessarily, super unnecessarily violent. That's what the other thing. It was total. It was so disproportionate. It was so unnecessary. If somebody's being this unnecessarily violent, that should be something we're going to cancel somebody for, instead of all the nonsense we say cancel people for. Thank you very much, Ms. Brittany.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Eric, you're back. Okay. I wanted to wrap this up at 10 and it's 9:40. So yes. Also, I want to get your take. I was going to ask him this, but he had to leave. There's talks right now about Will losing his Oscar. Do you think this is something on the aisle of accountability, or do you think that's kind of taking things too far? Like, what do you think?
I don't think it's on a merit index to what he did. He won the Oscar because the Academy membership voted for him on the basis of his performance. I really think they should leave that alone. They should let him keep his Oscar. I think Polanski kept his Oscar. Weinstein kept his Oscar. This was, of course, something that happened at the Oscars, so I know there's going to be a myriad of viewpoints. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, that's a whole other form. Like, we're talking about physical violence. We're talking about comedy being perceived as verbal abuse. To take that away from him, I don't know if it's proportionate or if it aligns.
I think for me, I'm conflicted on it because as a prize fighter, if you do something wrong, they strip your belt. You no longer have the privilege of being the champion. You don't have that. So part of me wants to see, yes, I'm sorry, there's a code of conduct to, yes, you did a great job, you did this, but you know what? Now you do not get to share in the accolades and in the, any other sport or any other, thing where your achievement, you are stripped of your prize because you did not show what you needed to show to receive it. And so that's where I'm on it. But I also feel sometimes like, just like the Academy, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I also feel like they missed their moment to really address it. So it's kind of right now, anything kind of feels like some lip service and publicity scenario where I feel like, I don't know what they can do right now to kind of satiate the feeling.
There's people saying that they didn't take one. I'm guessing they're saying Harvey Weinstein, his Oscar away. Some people said if they take Will Smith's Oscar, they need to take Woody Allen's Oscar. There's a lot of things. I don't know. For me, I understand now after you said that, but for me, I don't know if that's proportionate. I mean, I would be more understanding if like Chris Rock pressed charges on the thing, but for the Academy to take an award away that has nothing to do with that. Well, again, it kind of does because it happened at the Oscars. I don't know. I don't think he should have his Oscar taken away personally, but there's an argument for that. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. First of all, I didn't mind my manners, and thank you for having me on. I apologize for that. I think there's a whole conversation that has to happen between those 2 points, which is there some kind of restorative process here, like restorative justice? Like, okay, you need to attend some therapy. You need to apologize to Chris publicly. You need to apologize to the public. You need to apologize to the Oscars, because there was a whole bunch of attention taken away from really valuable winners. Like, for the first time in history, a deaf person won an Oscar. Nobody's hearing about that. You know what I mean? So now we're missing so much of the whole story of that night because of that one thing that he did. Do I think he should have it taken away? Only if he doesn't want to find some kind of restorative process through this. But if I was the Oscars, I would be like, look, this is what you're going to do. If you want to keep your Oscar, which you deserve, you won it. You had an amazing performance, and we want to acknowledge that, but we can't not acknowledge what you did. So let's have a conversation about how we can work you back, and not just heal you and Chris, but heal society for what you did. You get what I'm saying? So that's where I think the conversation needs to start, is right there in the middle.
I agree with that.
I think that's actually, so I'm also, Brittany, I'm also with you. I think that I don't feel that we should take this Oscar away. But I think, Steve, you bring up a really good point. If he is not willing to kind of like go the extra mile to kind of clean this up. I mean, I'm not saying clean this up. I feel like he needs to show that he's sincerely apologetic for what's happened, and he needs to take the necessary steps to make this right. I think I'm okay with, him keeping it. But I think you bring up a really good point. If he's not willing to do those things, then that does kind of make things a little complicated, because you clearly, like, he had the opportunity to apologize to Chris Rock when he was on stage and really give a proper apology. The apology that he gave was so generic that he could have really been apologizing that he was crying or whatever. Like, he could have taken the opportunity to really try to make things right then. And it would have been way more effective, I feel like, if he had took the time to do that, but he didn't. And so it was a huge missed opportunity. And then the apology he does send out was just something written that, I mean, anyone could have wrote that. I thought it was a good apology, but if he had just said that in person, it would have been really good.
Like, is this a good apology or is this just a keyboard apology?
Exactly. And so I mean, it's easy. Like that was an easy, like, cop out in a sense that you just kind of wrote it and now you're not really talking and Jada's not talking. And so I think that's a really good point. But there does need to be some level of accountability. He can't just get away with, what he just did. But I don't think he needs to be canceled. I think there's a lot of times people like think accountability and canceling someone is synonymous. And I feel like you can hold someone accountable and acknowledge, also what they've done in the arts world.
The thing about his apology is that two things. When he apologized at the Oscars, yes, he didn't directly apologize to Chris because he didn't think he felt like he did anything wrong. And also he had this surrounding support system that validated his actions, that were consoling him. Not to say we don't know exactly those conversations happened. I do know Denzel was like, the higher you climb, the devil tries to get you, or something like that. I know that's like a scripture. And he recited it on stage, but I was thinking, well, the devil got him though. Like, Will is acting as if he's being warned. No, he's telling you what just happened. The devil got you on your night. And he's not talking about Chris being the devil. We can go biblical if you guys want a Sunday sermon, but I really do think, like, because it's like, I'm going to go there because I am. So I'm Christian, right? And it's like this one joke, the relevance of it, the pain of it didn't hit anyone in the room, probably, but only them. And who knows what Will has been going through? I don't know. But it's very odd that on the night that he was going to win that Oscar. And he's been nominated and he's gone to the Oscars many times. And then this night, this thing happens to where it's like the devil knows your Achilles heel. Like, he knows the thing to get in your ear or to mess you up. I feel like Denzel was right. I feel like the devil was like, I'm going to make this fool look like an idiot by just saying this little thing. Jada's going to look at him, and the trigger of him feeling like he needs to prove himself a man again, or feel like he's not man enough, or feeling like his masculinity is being going to be questioned. I'm going to make him do this thing to overshadow this moment he's been waiting for the rest of it, for his whole life. So I don't even know where I was going with that. But yes, I do believe that the devil got Will. And I do believe that the apology that he gave on Instagram, to me, even though it read well, I didn't like it because everything else Will does, he is on video. He does Instagram videos, he does YouTube, he pours his soul and heart to his fans all the time. And then the one time you should be doing that, you write it. I did not like that. I was like, you need to be directly on camera saying something to Chris. And
I think, yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and perhaps he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to be vulnerable in that way, perhaps. But who knows? Go ahead.
I think it's the thing that keeps sticking with me, and I think, Steve, you're right. And I see everyone's point of, like, the Oscar, he did the work that was deserved for the Oscar, that part. I think there needs to be conditions on, if you want to keep it, this is what you do. But going back to the apology, what you're saying, Brittany, I feel, you, first of all, you didn't apologize to the person you needed to when you had the chance. You didn't do it. And I think, and it's amazing to me because his publicist was there too. And so I can't imagine that his publicist didn't say to him, I can't, it's funny. I was working on a whole stand-up routine just for his publicist, right? That must have been, just beside himself, like getting calls, like, what are you doing? What's going on? And I can't imagine. It's just funny to me that I can imagine the publicist and say, you need to apologize right now. You need to figure this out. You need to, and it felt like the apology that he wrote to Chris Rock was what was the culmination of somebody saying to him, you need to apologize. You need to figure this out. You cannot let this go. Right.
Who's to
It
say
didn't
she
feel like he
didn't
was
say that?
broken down. No, but I'm
I,
saying like it didn't feel like it came from him that he needed that he
yeah.
felt, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying to your point. I
Oh,
didn't feel like he did it because he needed to. I think he
I
did. I mean, because he felt necessary. I think he did it because it was like you better get damage control.
I think exactly. I can imagine like his publicist saying like you need to go up there and apologize, and him being like I ain't doing it. The same way he was like I'm not leaving. Like
Right.
I
The
think in
ego
that
thing.
I think he was very like staunch and I am right. I am right in this. And it wasn't going to move. But
Let's also remember, sorry, real quick. That's not the first time he smacked somebody. We remember when he was on the red carpet,
oh yeah.
and the gentleman kissed him on the cheek, and he flipped down and smacked him. Now, again, that's a personal space, different things. However, what I'm saying is there's an anger there. There's something there, and that hasn't been Will in the past. Let's just say that. I'm not excusing. I'm just saying that's the things of I think something's going on. I think he should seek help. But I'm saying that this is not the first time that he has been physically violent, and it was the same scenario, quick like this. This one was calculated, so it makes it that's an escalation of thought on, hey, I can do what I want, right? So I just want to remind people of that. This isn't like, oh no, he came out of nowhere and smacked somebody. He smacked somebody in the red carpet.
I feel like that one was
And
limited though.
no, but no, Richard, I want to say Richard's right. And sorry if I'm talking, Richard's right. And I remember that, but he recently talked about that when he hit that guy. I think it was 2 years ago on what LeBron James had like these barbershop talks on like HBO. If anyone saw that, and there was this episode where Will Smith was talking to a bunch of celebrities, and he was talking about this slap, and he said that Jay-Z texted him and was like, I saw you just slap that reporter. That was the best thing I ever saw. Blah, blah, blah. I saw Will Smith saying this story in like two or three other interviews years before, almost like he, not almost like, because he thought actually that he was going to get repercussions for that after he smacked him, because he just smacked him because he's like, he kissed me, he smacked me, I reacted. And he's like, weirdly enough, no one really talked about it, and people are really on my side. And then I have Jay-Z talking to me and saying how much he loved it and thought it was hilarious, and like basically like we usually can't get away with that type of thing, right? And so that's another case of other people co-signing bad behavior, basically. And higher ups, people that you admire, like a Jay-Z, like him thinking, oh, okay. So perhaps that energy when he's like, well, I'm about to smack this guy because nothing happened to me that time and people validated me. So nothing's going to change now, especially if I'm defending my wife.
Right. Because listen, to Freddie, to your point, I think it's not okay, because I and Eric and I talked about this, like where it's like, listen, you can't put your hands on anyone, things happen, and it's a visceral reaction to that scenario, right? However, my point was that it was in him. Like there's something in there that right there is the violence is very close, and all I'm saying, you know what I mean, it was very close, and I think that's a huge point, that it was fine last time. So this, now your feet are even further off the ground, right?
I don't know if I would consider that violent though. I feel like that's, now in my opinion, I feel like that's probably more not like it was like not self-defense, but that person was in his face and trying to kiss him and was extremely inappropriate. We wouldn't be having this conversation if the reporter was, a male and Will was a female. If that reporter was trying to kiss a female on the red carpet and she slapped him, people were like, all right, let's go, like women's rights. So I don't believe like this is I know what kind of like getting lost.
It wasn't violent.
But
I don't think
think
Richard's
about it.
saying that.
But a shove is different than a smack. That's all I'm saying. Because I don't know that I'd haul off and smack someone who tried to. I might shove you. I might say, "What's your problem?" I might do this. But what I'm saying, when it's right there for the smack, and look, I'm like I said, martial arts, box. I'm trained in certain things, and it's not my first thing to smack or punch somebody unless I'm in severe distress or fear. But I just mean like the smack. What I'm trying to say is it was right there. So not that it's just to the mental state of Will. That's all I'm trying to say. That it just seems like it's like it's there and it was okay. So here we go. And you're right. If it happened but I don't think it'd be right for a woman to haul off and smack somebody either. We have some things that we have to balance on that too. Just because it's a female, because there's a lot of gray lines around that because a woman's upset, she can smack you and punch you. That's not acceptable either. But in our society, we say that it is. I'm not saying
But if someone's trying to kiss you on the red carpet, you don't have my consent to do that.
Well, and self-defense should be proportionate to what's happening, right? So if dude's trying to kiss you, get the hell away from me.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like boom, like it was like back. It was literally the back of his hand, I believe. It was just like that. So I'm just kind of like, I probably would have done the same thing, low key. I don't know, maybe. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not condoning it, but
we have 2 minutes left, and Mr. Palu wants to come back and give a take, I think, or not.
Well, if I can just make this last mention, and I'll bust out of here. Oh, okay. The thing that you're talking about here too is like I'm not sure if you guys talked about it, but is the environment that celebrities live in. This is why you see so many of them getting busted for doing like really crazy stuff, is because they're so secluded. They can't even go to a store. They can't go to a gas station without being mobbed. You know what I mean? And so this creates this parallel universe in their head where they live all the time, and they start doing just weird stuff to try and reach out to reality. There's therapists in Hollywood that deal with that scenario specifically. And so I think that plays a little bit into it too, is like, where's Will's mentality where he feels like these things are okay? I don't know, but it seems weird to me that he would take such a disproportionate action against a joke. Like, so weird. You know what I mean? But
I don't think it was the joke, though. Going back to, I don't think it's the joke. I think it's the dysfunction of their relationship playing itself out and whatever pressure and going on. I'm not blaming Jada. I'm not blaming, but I think it's the dysfunction of their relationship. And to the point where you're saying, who knows what I've been, living in Hollywood and having, there are things that I'd been around that people paid and cleaned up on, right? That should have been arrestable offenses, but someone cleaned up and did whatever. I mean, look how far it's like someone has to spiral out so far for them to get any punishment or help, not even punishment, help, right? Lindsay Lohan went how far before getting any help? Kanye's still going, right? We had so many people, unfortunately, that we watch have these mental breakdowns, or not even mental, I don't say mental, some of them were just extremely spoiled, but they were allowed to carry on and continue until it got to a point where people said, okay, now we have to do something. And that's not fair either.
Brittany, thanks for having me on. Really, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I'll get off so Palo can come on, but I appreciate you guys. And I appreciate the fact that you've got all these really beautiful people, and then you bring my ass on here. So I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, he was talking to Eric. No, I said you're beautiful too.
I was rejecting the notion that you're not beautiful.
He's like, I agree.
Not. Right? Yes.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys, and Brittany, I always appreciate you, and I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks, guys.
You too. Bye, Steve. Thank you.
Bye, Steve. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you for waiting. You have the floor to give us your last take because we're wrapping up. Right.
Well, anyway, yeah. Because I remember you said you wanted me to ask about if he should take the Oscar. That's a good question. I don't know. Because you smacked him right then. He was supposed to leave, right? He was supposed to leave, but he stayed. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I had to think about that. But my last take is thank you, Brittany King, for having me. I really enjoyed this experience, and I've been looking forward to watching more of your stuff. I told you I have a lot of friends who are like your hugest fans, so I mean, I should, but yeah, but again, violence is never a good thing, and we shouldn't make excuses for violence. I mean, having a culture of violence is not good. Like the more we accept it, the more it comes, especially in these public stages. We have to have some level of decorum in our society that we're going to expect people to go through, especially people that we promoted so high in our society. If we could promote them so high in our entertainment and give them so much energy, we can expect at least decency and decorum in how they publicize themselves, especially because we expecting everybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's not this is not an unhuman standard that they should live by. When you're in public like that, you don't go smack a host on thing. This is no matter how you slice it, to me it's so far gone from any type of excusability where we need to put the heat on him, because the only reason he did this is because he thought he'd get away with it. And going back to the thing about somebody trying to kiss you, that's different. That's almost all too. If a man tried to kiss me, I'll smack him too. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different story. That's a whole different story, because that's almost that's a sexual assault. If you're a straight man and a guy is trying to kiss you, that's literally he's sexually assaulting you. You have the right to respond to that sexual assault. But in no way did Chris Rock assault him. So this is totally disproportionate. It's totally violent. Like, defense and violence, two different things. You can defend yourself from a sexual assault, and even if it's disproportionate, you're still defending yourself from an assault where you're not the aggressor. This time, there's no way you're going to tell me that anybody's going to tell me that Chris Rock was the aggressor in the situation. So therefore, the onus is on Will Smith, and we have to, in my humble opinion, keep the social pressure, because he's a social figure. He makes a social living of our entertainment, or watching them. We ourselves need to be responsible consumers and give the necessary and express our required displeasure from the situation. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, guys, we're going to end this discussion. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm losing my voice. But Jessarae also got kicked off too. She just texted me.
Okay.
So she says goodbye and that she loves this chat. And yeah.
That was awesome. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Brittany.
I'm glad you're here, Eric. Thank you, Richard. Thank
you so much.
I guess
Brittany,
thank you, Freddie.
I'm so honored to be Brittany, that you allowed me to come in and chat with you, and also Freddie and Eric and Brittany and Jaimi and everyone. Jessarae was here. It was so wonderful. It's like I feel like I could talk to you guys all day, all night, and I'm really interested to hear some more about your thoughts on a lot of other things. So
awesome. Same here. Well, thank you guys, and to Jaimi, Jessarae, Freddie, Eric, Richard. Thank you so much for this discussion on American Shade. It will be posted right after this, so if you didn't check the live, you can watch it again. So peace, love, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.